Do you enjoy a good story? If so, you're in for a special treat.
For more than 100 years, Jehovah's Witnesses have proclaimed the Bible's message that God's kingdom will rid the world of wickedness.
Undoubtedly, before the end, Satan's efforts to promote wickedness will intensify.
And of course, Satan is a god of intimidation.
That the reign of sin and death will soon be overthrown by Messiah's kingdom.
If a man's offering is a lamb, it shall be a female without blemish. He should lay his hand upon its head, slaughter it, empty its blood on the base of the altar, and he shall be forgiven.
Are you ready? Are you ready to be glad over her destruction?
I mean, how sad it would be if we shaped and imitated ourselves after the world, and when Satan picked us up, we fit right in with his machine and organization.
This is the price of our rage.
Who do you think are Satan's primary targets? We are.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake, former Jehovah's Witness, current Spook Master General. Okay, that was terrible. Now everyone's tuned out, hopefully. I am Jake, though. That is my name. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Lighting? Weird. Is it spooky, or is it just the only thing I could get to slightly be in focus? Hard to say. I do kind of like, we've got a weird, like, artifact effect that happens with the purple light in the background because of the dark. It seems kind of spooky. But welcome to the show. I am a former Jehovah's Witness, and so it's Halloween. As you can tell by my Halloween-themed shirt. Okay, so right off the bat, I don't have the Halloween spirit, I have to say. I mean, some of you in chat know I grew up in a relatively controlling religion. I wasn't able to celebrate Halloween. And so I do love horror now that I left the group. I showed that trailer for a horror novel that I have coming out. But I still don't have, like, the Halloween vibe. Like, I don't think to celebrate it. Costumes, I have no affinity for. Like, I have no real desire to do it. And so it is kind of just like, I don't know, life was busy this year. We didn't really do anything, but I do love spooky stuff. I love horror stuff, and I obviously love talking about my old cult. I feel like engaging with the stuff that used to really scare me has been really therapeutic, actually. I was really afraid of demons when I was in, and realizing that demons are not real was really, really a weight off my shoulders. And now, you know, I can write about demons without worrying about being possessed. Why would I worry about such a thing? You might wonder, but that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to read a bunch of scary demon stories from old Jehovah's Witness publications. So, why do I have a bunch of creepy stories? You probably just thought I pulled them for the stream. That's a natural assumption, but no. Writing this novel, not a cult, I had intended it to come out this year around Halloween. And I had to delay it because it has been kind of emotionally exhausting to write, so I had to take a little break. But you can read the first 130 pages right now for free. If you go to my Patreon, you don't have to join or anything. It's a public post. You can download a PDF. It's a rough draft. There's, I think, some mistakes in there. So I'll upload it with another version. But hey, so that's the thing. I've been working on that novel, and one of the conceits of the book, that if you read the early version, you'll see there's not one for every chapter, but I want every chapter to end with a creepy quote about Satan or the demons or some thematically relevant thing to the chapter. And so in my early research, when I started working on this project, I just started pulling as many stories about demons as I possibly could, and I just compiled them into a Word document. So I have some of those here today that I thought would be cool to share on stream, and maybe we can go kind of in order from least spooky to most spooky, because the one thing I do think is cool about Halloween is that you get to sort of confront your fears together. So that they're less scary. You embrace the scary thing. And the real world is scary, so it's kind of nice to have a day where we get to confront fake fears and become that fear in some way. This is a good time to mention that I've been smoking a little bit of those funny cigarettes you hear about in old movies. I'm just getting in character because I'm going to have to do my old-timey news voice a lot. I'm just going to be honest. The old publications, they're just honest-to-God ghost stories. They're really creepy. And so we're going to read some of those. And I was a little late starting the stream because I was desperately trying to fix the audio on a thing I found. When I got home from work today, I was like, okay, this is going to be fun, but man, I wish that we just had a demon talk, Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses will know what I'm talking about. I'll explain what those are in a second. I was like, I wish we just had a demon talk so I could just play one and we could react to it. But then I remembered that there actually are a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses who upload old talks from notable speakers or just talks that they like. The organization specifically tells members not to do this for reasons that I think we will see, because I found one, but I found it only a half hour ago. I was going through some of these talk archives and I found one that's it's an honest to God demon talk. It's spooky. It's a little triggering. So I think we're going to have to save that for a little bit later so we can scale. And I do think it'd be fun to read the opening chapter of the book too, since we're reading spooky stuff. A little treat, just a little treat. Let's check in with chat. And this technically is not me complaining, but we do have a sound drop for when usually I start the streams by just complaining about YouTube related things, so let's just play it anyway.
Oh, happy day. All worldly complaining about YouTube.
You see, wouldn't it have been great if I had put more effort into the stream and done a special version of the sound drop where he says, oh, spooky day instead? That would have been good, probably, but I didn't think to do that until just now when I said it out loud. But let's check in with chat. Presumably there are no complainers in this chat, for we are weirdos who are home on Halloween and chill with watching a live stream. So this, I should have said this right up top. The vibe tonight is kind of chill, spooky, stoner vibes. Fun, scary. But if you get triggered, don't hesitate to duck out. I think we'll make these creepy stories fun. I'll be disappointed if you haven't prepared a jump scare. Well, this is a real thing. I have not prepared a jump scare because an honest-to-God jump scare, and I know I'm saying honest-to-God a lot today on the stream. I'm going to try and rein that in. I've got animals in the house. I got cats. They get ornery when I stream, and those are always jump scares. So at any moment, a terrifying beast could hop into frame, could jostle some piece of furniture in the background. Wouldn't that be spooky if it happened when we were reading a demon story? I got demons on my light bulb. I kind of like the grainy thing that's happening. I think it's adding to the atmosphere because otherwise there really isn't an atmosphere. It's just I put on this shirt because it's the only Halloween adjacent item that I have. You'll be happy to know Christina had a cute costume that she wore to work at school. It was very adorable. Okay. I did say I was going to talk to chat a second ago. Yeah, crazy intro. Okay, first fucking jump scare. Bo, come here. Just join us on stream. You don't have to knock things over and get me upset. No. Bo, don't knock things over. Come in, join us on stream. First time I've sung to the cat on a stream, but you should know that's a pretty normal thing that I do. It's just make up little songs. What's up, buddy? Hi, that's Bo. He is pretty spooky, to be honest. But yeah, that's a trailer I made for the book. And by the way, so those movies that are in the trailer, oh shit, I'll just talk about those later. I already feel like I'm delaying too much. Oh, buddy, he really loves attention so much. He gets that from his father, from me. Hold your dookie, it's about to get spooky. Very good. Queen of Flatulence dressed up as a butterfly for Halloween. What a like dainty, delicate animal to be paired with a name like Queen of Flatulence. Sparky, this is your first Halloween since becoming Pomo this year. If you don't know, Pomo is physically out, mentally out. And we had a super chat from Flint Clara. Thank you so much. Scared me as much as those jeweled belly trolls that supposedly got up and walked out of a kingdom hall, as we were told happened once. Okay, I'm going to set this comment aside because you have reminded me of something so important. It could only be divine angelic direction that you reminded me of this. Oh, very nice. You're spending it watching anime and playing Ocarina of Time. That's an incredibly based thing. I just finished Echoes of Wisdom. What a delight. Great game. Now I'm just kind of back to messing around with Tears of the Kingdom. I can't quite get out of the Zelda mood. If I had a PS5, I would definitely play Silent Hill 2. It's my 2 cents. That's what I would be playing if I had a modern console. Are you giving us sweets if we say trick or treat? Yes, of course. I will be giving you sweets, impressions, and kitties. And if we're especially lucky, we might get a Peach thing, but she really doesn't like this room because the cats tend to live in here, and me. Jenny B heard lots of terrifying demon stories growing up. So if you in chat start thinking of some. We did a stream last year that I've got it. I keep on intending to release it as an edited video because I meant to do it for today. But we reacted to creepy Watchtower art, like demon Watchtower art. Bo is really going to do this tonight. My goodness, he's going to test my patience. So we had a really fun time doing that, and I think we might have exchanged some demon stories at the time. I know that like they came up kind of like impromptu during a stream I did with Jegs at one time. But yes, sound off and chat with your spooky demon stories, and we'll read the good ones, and we'll probably read all of them because beggars can't be choosers. This is from Oskimi Tradko. I'm so sorry. I probably said that very wrong. I loved to hear spooky demon stories when I was a witness, but it was kind of frowned upon among us witnesses to spread them because why give Satan attention? Yeah. Okay, this is a good point. So you might have heard a hiss there. That's something like a jump scare because Echo and Bo started fighting. But yeah, there was a shift. So they used to publish a lot of scary demon stories. And some would call them honest to God ghost story. I don't know if you've heard that before, but they really would. They would almost always be like first person narration or very vivid. If you've ever read The Watchtower, which why would you? They're really like bland. You know, it's the brand cereal of religious publications. Very boring to read. And I think their boringness is usually what gives Jehovah's Witnesses a pass. But then, when they would talk about the power of Satan and his demons and the way that they could impact your life, they would get really specific and scary. And suddenly the writers would start to use their prowess a little bit. And so they stopped doing this at a certain point. They stopped telling scary demon stories. I was thinking earlier today, I feel like it kind of coincides with the definitive end of the satanic panic of the 90s. By the time we hit the early 2000s, I think it's just less socially acceptable to do that. Like, by the time Harry Potter movies are coming out, the satanic panic lost, kind of, because that was such a big part of my childhood, was not being allowed to watch Harry Potter or read them more specifically, because those books were coming out. They were obviously the big thing at the time, and my class read one for an assignment. I wasn't allowed to read it or even hear it read, and the teacher had planned a unit around vocabulary from the book. So I sat in the hall and I read, I think, like Captain Underpants or something. I couldn't have been that because I had to do something with like big vocabulary words in it. But I think that's around the time when I started discovering Unfortunate Events, is because it was a really compelling series that wasn't spiritistic, so I could get away with it. And so I grew up with a lot of those scary stories and that satanic panic. Even Pokemon was like, there were stories that was demonic somehow, and also it involved evolution, and evolution is a trick from Satan, so that kind of thing. And so that just at a certain point started to be so cringe. Like, the Christian conservative movement just couldn't quite be as vocal. It wasn't chill anymore to be like that. And I think that's around the time when they started to say, if we tell these demon stories, it's like giving attention to Satan, giving undue prominence to the devil. Exactly what the chatter was saying, Oskimi. So, sorry, I know I'm behind on comments. Ramrod says, I lived with some worldlies as a teen, got kicked out. A chick that dated my roommate would frequently get possessed while I was there. Ramrod, I need details now. Tell me what's happening. Oh, very nice. I call maybe listening to this from the kitchen of the restaurant you work at. I think you should play it like on the restaurant speakers instead of classical music or whatever. Bear Woody says, so funny that we used to make fun of householders hiding and pretending that they weren't home when we knocked on their door, when we had to turn off our lights and pretend we weren't home on Halloween. Oh my God, how did I forget about that? Oh, well, you know what? Okay, before we get into the creepy quotes, let's pull up, shit, they must have changed it like today, which is really weird, but the front page article for like the last couple weeks on jw.org was about Halloween. And they must have changed it like earlier today to the election. I've been trying to see if I have a script worth writing for the channel about the way that the website is so reactionary and manipulative. Like, just whatever is happening in the world, they put a article that corresponds to world events. Well, you know, so why is politics so divisive? What does the Bible say? Well, I don't really care about that. What I care about is Halloween today, baby. Okay, so this is the article that they had there on the website. All right, I'm going to catch up with chat. Okay, yes, Scooby-Doo as well. This was a really controversial one. Did I talk about this on stream before? That, like, I was allowed to watch the cartoons because it was always revealed that they weren't real monsters at the end. It's funny how, like, those retro Scooby-Doo? Retro cartoons were okay. Like, I was allowed to watch the Smurfs as a kid, which we'll get to. We'll get to the Smurfs. It's in the thumbnail. That's a promise in some ways. But I was allowed to watch that in Scooby-Doo because my parents grew up with those cartoons. And they rebelled against their parents by being like, well, this isn't actually a thing. So I was allowed to watch that. But there were newer things like Pokemon that they were weird reactionary Christians about. Oh, thank you. This shirt, I feel so ridiculous wearing it. But honestly, it kind of works. I also had intended to start the stream without my glasses because I got a haircut today, shaved my beard, and I always feel like I look better without my glasses when my hair is short. There's a real complex equation happening in my brain, but my allergies are so bad. I tried to put contacts in, and my eyes were like, no, and rejected the contact, like shot them out. Has anybody seen the newest Evil Dead, by the way, for great eyeball-related horror? It's really great. We can talk horror movies later. So if you are a Never JW and you have somehow managed to make it through this many minutes of my rambling, the first thing you should know is that I do play a sound drop when I take a sip of water.
My church had been giving me ass to drink, but now I was freely receiving, the water of life.
And I don't play the whole thing every time, but the first time we talk about drinking water, we do have to play that. Let me know if my connection goes weird. StreamYard's been acting stupid lately. I got a little pop-up. Okay, so the reason why Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate most holidays is because they feel that those holidays have pagan origins. They apply this inconsistently because, like, basically everything has pagan origins, like basically every celebration in the modern world. But you're allowed to celebrate your anniversary with your spouse. Wedding rings are pagan. You're allowed to have those. Piñatas were a frequent source of controversy within the Spanish Hall, but that was kind of a settled matter. There was like questions from readers that Watchtower did about whether or not, like, piñatas were pagan. And their answer that they gave to why they weren't, or why it was up to the Christian's conscience as to whether or not piñatas were cool and not going to give you demons, was like, even though that may have been the start, that's not how the world sees it today. Like, that connotation no longer sticks around, which is just silly, because then why can't witnesses celebrate birthdays? Because obviously nobody's thinking, the pagan celebration of the god associated with the year of one's birth, or whatever witnesses would say. So they think, and they're right about this one for sure. I don't think anybody even would fight him on this. I remember some Christians that we would meet out in service saying, we don't celebrate either because it is a satanic holiday. We would be like, based. We wouldn't say it like that. What are the origins of Halloween? The Bible's answer. The Bible does not mention Halloween. Okay, not off to a great start, Watchtower. A holiday that made many observe on October 31st each year. That made many observe. Why did I say it like that? However, the ancient origins and traditions of Halloween conflict with Bible teachings. So, whoa. We're getting into something that Watchtower doesn't always do, which is cite sources for their research. Samhain. The origin of Halloween can be traced to this ancient pagan festival celebrated by Celtic people over 2,000 years ago, states the World Book Encyclopedia. The Celts believed that the dead could walk among the living at this time. During Samhain, which I might be saying wrong, the living could also visit the dead. Alright, so it's mostly like that. But they're also like Halloween costumes, candy, and trick-or-treat. Which is like, okay, so maybe you just think you can get away with just doing the fun Halloween stuff and, it's just about costumes. No, we thought about this too, idiots. According to one source, we're getting less specific, some of the Celts wore ghoulish costumes so that wandering spirits would mistake them for one of their own and leave them alone. Others offered sweets to the spirits to appease them. What I find so confusing... Oh, okay, so they do cite it. Alright, so that's the gist. You know, obviously they're not cool with ghosts, vampires, werewolves, and witches, and zombies. These have long been associated with the evil spirit world. Long been associated. You know, for a while, witches and ghosts were not associated. But they have been for a long time. Referring to them as supernatural monsters, the book Halloween Trivia, sounds like a very legitimate source, states that such creatures are closely connected with death, the dead, or the fear of dying. Oh! So this is the weird thing about Jehovah's Witnesses, is like they will decry the world for being superstitious. The world, anybody outside of Jehovah's Witnesses, right? And, but Jehovah's Witnesses are super suspicious because they think that even being closely associated with something that used to be pagan could bring demons into your life, or at the very least, be a tacit act of worship to Satan by like the transitive property of how God works his little point system on who's good and bad and getting into the good place / bad space. And as I'm sure we'll talk about later, like, they're very suspicious about used furniture. Some are. There's cultural differences, of course. So, like, here in the States, in the Midwest, there are, like, some people who are like, no, we don't go to yard sales because used furniture could mean demon-possessed furniture. You don't know where that came from. Now, if you're going to go by that logic, it's not like the furniture at IKEA goes through a demon screening process like they do for chemicals and shit. It's like, okay, if you think that demons can be passed on just by human touch like a virus, stay tuned, then, like, you're really not safe ever. So it's kind of an inconsistently applied idea. But, they're very superstitious. Does that play a big part into not a cult? Of course it does. All right, so that's the framework we're dealing with. That's why we're here on Halloween, because of this kind of religious trauma. And also because I was raised, like, this stuff was drilled into my head for the first nearly 30 years of my life. So now, of course, I can appreciate all the fun stuff about Halloween without feeling guilty. But I just don't have any anticipation or excitement for the holiday because I don't really have that. Whereas I always wanted to celebrate Christmas as a witness, and so I do like Christmas now. Okay. Sorry, and I am a little stuffy, so I'll try not to be too sniffly on mic, but the good news is...
The good news is when I'm stuffy, I can do an even better Chris Martin from Coldplay impression because he has a very snotty voice. He's sort of got that sort of accent where everyone in England just, from decades, I believe, of inhaling smoke fogs from factories They, we just all sound like we have a terrible sinus infection constantly.
All right. And also, Jeffrey Jackson kind of sounds like that with an Australian accent, but I can't consistently do one of those. All right. Let me look and see if we've got some demon stories. Okay. Well, before we get into the ones that I have pulled from publications, let's get to some of yours right now. Maybe we can intersperse these throughout. But one of the super chats brought up one. So Flank Claro is that's how I spoonerized that. Frank Claro brings up this thing about a troll doll being in a kingdom hall and then coming to life because it is a possessed troll doll and walking out of the kingdom hall. All right, so I heard this story growing up. I heard this story about a troll doll. But trolls were, more popular when I was growing up. When, I guess, probably Gen Xers were growing up, maybe the Smurfs were, like, the thing that witnesses were worried about. Being like, I don't know. I mean, the bad guy, he's a magician, does witchcraft. What does Gargamel do? He's just like a generically, like, ooh, crafty guy. And so that generation has a doll comes to life and walks out of the Kingdom Hall story. They've got that about a Smurf doll. And so you'll see a lot of references to Smurfs in the XJW community. If you're wondering the lore on this and many other things, check out the iceberg stream that I did with XJW Kayla. We went down the rabbit hole of, like, most known things about Jehovah's Witnesses to, like, most obscure. And I think that the troll doll must be on there somewhere. And if not, sound off in chat so we can flesh out our troll doll. Smurf. Okay. It was a Smurf doll that got up and walked out saying, "Fuck this shit." Told to me by an elder on service. Okay, I've heard this variation of it too, that it cursed. That it said a curse word. This is one of my favorite things about having grown up as a witness, is that we had folklore. We had stories that would pass around, and that's just kind of weird. Like, that just, you would, I grew up reading, like, detective comics and stuff, where it'd be like, oh boy, there's this old legend all the kids tell stories about old dead garbage man Joe. There is a Detective Comics issue from, like, the 70s I'm thinking about, but that's not important right now. Like, in a lot of pop culture, it's like, oh yeah, all the kids sing songs on the playground about this legend. And, like, that never has happened in my entire life. The kids we didn't sing songs about real life murder events. Ring Around the Rosie, I guess, is a reference. But we did kind of have that as Jehovah's Witnesses, where these little ghost stories would pass around. And so that's kind of fun. And it's always interesting to see ones that, like, other people are like, oh yeah, I heard that one growing up. And then others are like, no, I didn't hear that one. All right, so quick chat, ketchup. Ketchup is reminding me that we have corn dogs, and I might have to eat one later. Okay. Jenny B. Scary demon story number 1. A young woman was possessed in some foreign country, and every day she was tormented by this demon. No one in her family could help her or comfort her, because if you touched her, the demon would possess you. So day after day, she was tortured by the demon, and one day her sister couldn't stand watching her endure this. So she held her head in her lap and became possessed as well. I don't remember how it was resolved, but I was traumatized by this story for years. That's really crazy. But it's honestly, I think we're going to see the groundwork that was laid for this folklore. That would have been a great way to set up this stream right up top, but I didn't think to do that. But that's what we're going to be reading in these old Watchtower quotes. As I was reading through them for the book and everything, it really feels like, okay, you can see how this then becomes like an explanation for demonic activity that is in witnesses' heads. And so they're kind of able to creatively invent their own demon rationalizations for inexplicable events. And then they'll send a letter in a Watchtower, tell people about it, and then it goes in the yearbook, and then it becomes canon. Like, a lot of this stuff happens. So Yes, I'm loving this. Whoa! You guess you performed an exorcism? You're kind of scooping my book. That's kind of a problem. Actually, no, it's not. I just remembered. I plugged that plot hole. Okay, so Ramrod says, 1. A guy knew demons by names. Talked to them until he became a JW. Demons beat the shit out of him for studying. The other story, supposedly a demon killed a little girl in Africa or something. Details. She would scream and flip around on the floor. I had my Bible yelling Jehovah at her while we pinned her down. It was weird. Oh, so this happened to you? So you're saying these aren't like things that you heard. This actually happens to you. Wait, what? Or are you copying and pasting that from somewhere? Because you're like in Africa or something. But I feel like if that happened to you, you would remember if it was in Africa. So I might not be reading this right. Okay. Rick Dominguez says, hello, I just connected. So check this. I'm from Mexico. My favorite towel was a Superman towel. My mother ended up burning it because her mom told her it was demonic. Now, how is Superman demonic? Because like his origin story mirrors like the Moses story from the Bible. Oh my god. Queen of Flatulence heard a story about an elder who was lifted above his bed by demons while holding his Bible. Jesus Christ. Homo sapien says family friends said their elderly parents had demons that wanted them to move out. Oh. Memory unlocked. Demons wanting people to move out. Interesting. So this is like Amityville almost. They kept coming home and all their furniture would be moved to the middle of the rooms. The wife would be in the kitchen and then feel her husband constantly pulling on her shirt. She finally freaked out and turned around to yell at him, and no one was there. They ended up getting rid of a yard sale item. Okay, so I had never seen Poltergeist before, so I watched it like last week for the first time. It's great. It was super fun. Goes on a little long at the end, but a very fun, silly movie. But that's just in Poltergeist, right? Like all the furniture being like pulled into this like point in the room where there's this energy. But I heard that same thing. Like one of the demon stories that I had in mind when I started writing Not a Call, and funny enough, this is no longer even in the book in any big way, but it was the stories of furniture in the house moving around. I had like the start of writing Not a Call. Nobody asked about this, but I'll tell you. Was I wrote this short story about like elders who think they're going on a shepherding call, and it ends up being an exorcism. And the like thing that the woman is describing happening is things moving around the room and like driving her crazy. She's like taking out her cell phone and like trying to film to see, but it's like the demons know that there's a cell phone watching, so they won't do it. That kind of thing. And it was all based on being told scary stories. And I was literally told these around a campfire by my grandfather and his old friend. We would go camping out in the woods. Older folks would take us, go with my dad and my grandpa. And when it got late, the fire got going, there were a few times where they told these demon stories. My grandfather would claim to have a few because, he claims to have a few. I don't, in hindsight, I don't think actually demons possess anything ever. But he had a lot about working in different people's houses because he was a construction worker or, remodeler, contractor. And so he had a lot of stories about possessed furniture. And I specifically remember one about a drawer that would pull open by itself. That was really scared me. So there's that one scene in Twin Peaks where a drawer is permanently featured and a knob in the second season. I won't spoil it. But that moment really stood out to me. Okay. Boy, oh boy. I'm so late. Like, I'm so behind in chat because there's so many good stories. Ooh, this is just a good creative story. Ice Cream Headache says my elder dad literally handed out the T16 tract, What Hope for Dead Loved Ones, to trick-or-treaters one Halloween. It's so cringe. That's like, you're gonna get egged if you do that. You're gonna get a trick. I mean, you are inviting a trick. Sadie's or Seeds? Your name is like Cool. And I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't want to mess it up. First time chatting, I was a Bible student about 5 years ago and got TF out. I know what that means because I realized I was already bored. Oh, I love that. Email me. Unless you're the person who already emailed me, who I just haven't responded to yet. I got an email, if you're watching this, from someone who converted as an adult. And it mentioned in their email to me their story. And the fact that that's not something I really talk about in the channel. And a lot of XJWs don't because most of us were born in. So that was really interesting and I just haven't responded yet. Okay. Jenny B. Scary story number 2. A witness had a vase or urn that they discovered was possessed, and they were having demonic activity in their home because of the vase. So the witness drove to the ocean and threw it... Fuck, why can't I find your next part of this? They threw it where? Oh, I guess they threw it in the ocean. I see. Scary story number 3. A witness woman had keys to a haunted house in her purse. Parentheses. Why? And once, during a meeting, she reached into her purse, and her hand touched the keys, and she went into a trance, and, cliffhanger, her hair turned pure white. Speaking of Twin Peaks Season 2, oh my god. This is incredible. Oh my god, so many people have good demon stories. Why did I even bother pulling ones? We've got so many good ones in chat. Yes, watching Casper the Friendly Ghost can let the demons in your home. That was so disappointing to me as a kid because I just loved that character design. I loved just the way he was drawn, and I liked, cartoons. It just seemed like a fun movie. Not allowed to... Hey, Celtic mythology comes up in Not a Cult, by the way. That's just an honest-to-God... I'll say it, my favorite phrase of the stream. It's an honest-to-God fact. Celtic lore is important to Not a Cult. Yes, graduation. This is a great point. Side note to the demon discussion, but Bubger Kurg said, did anyone else find that graduation parties were like a big deal in your congregation? Like it was essentially a makeup for all the birthdays you missed? Totally. Yeah. I got so much money at my graduation. It's crazy. And it really did feel like it was to make up for all the things that I never got. Like, I got, dude, such a cute girl. I can say she was a girl at the time because we were both essentially children. When I graduated, girl that, like, I had a crush on, she was just kind of known to be, like, crazy. But you know what's funny is she was known to be that because she wasn't, like, a safe witness. So it probably just meant that she had, like, kissed boys before. But I didn't know. She got me a $100 iTunes gift card. And I went to a movie with her and my friends afterward. And nothing ever happened there. Because I was just like, I better not. These are the kind of things you look back on and think, what was I doing with my life? Shit, I'm still reading about the Chris Martin impression, so I really got to catch up. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I fucked up. Oh, the urn screamed as it sunk. That's fucking good. That is good. Sorry, and I am trying to do better about cursing, but not tonight. Not tonight. Of all night. I mean, this is the spookiest night. And apparently, curse words scare a lot of people away. And they are people who really like saying that they just they find it a sign of a lack of intelligence. It's not very smart of you to use the F-bomb. I don't know. I think we're all adults. We can make our own choices about cursing. On that note, let's watch. Oh, wait a minute! What the fuck? This can't be actually Jerry Minor, from SNL and from all of my favorite sitcoms ever. I threw away my worldly brother's Smurf in a snowdrift while my worldly dad's house. While at my worldly dad's house. And wouldn't you know it, my dad came walking in the house with that damn thing in his hand. I shit myself. Ah! That is like the moment where like they try to throw out the Ouija board, but it comes back into the house. That's what that is. It is Happy Halloween. What the fuck, Jerry Minor? That's insane. Your show actually was really important to my waking up story. The one you did for... Ooh, don't tell me. It was the one before Stitcher. I was into the podcast, comedy podcast scene. And I also, to this day, have never listened to the episode of Spontaneation you were on with Paul F. Tompkins, because I saw, that was another show I listened to all the time, and I saw that you talked about birthdays on it, and so I didn't listen to it. There was an episode of Improv for Humans that I skipped too, because they, like, at random, it was Matt Besser, obviously, and Danielle Schneider, and, like, Colton Dunn on the show, and they would react to cringy YouTube stuff, and they reacted to a Caleb and Sophia video, and my heart sank in my chest. I was like, oh, this can't be. And so I turned it off, and oh my God, I was so scared. But, like, that cumulative effect of just, like, seeing people that I really, like, liked and respected, and I knew were funny and weren't, like, satanic idiots, were just, like, telling their story. Just knowing that I was afraid to watch that stuff and listen to that stuff, that's what started to stick in my brain. So I appreciate you being out there talking about it. It really did make a difference in this man's case. And look at me now. Look at me now, Dad. I'm doing a YouTube stream on Halloween. Okay. Everything's going great. Everything is going great. We're having fun. Okay. So I'm going to share my Word document. Sorry there, I had to have a little sip of the
water of life.
Nailed it. If anybody is, like, smart with OBS and knows how to program, like, sound drive, I mean, is, like, willing to treat me like I am an 80-year-old Jehovah's Witness trying to figure out how the JW Library app works, that's about my comfort level with technology. Thanks, Jerry. This is surreal. Very weird. I do want to echo the fact that I wasn't allowed to watch That's So Raven. How sad. All right, so we're going to start kind of general. I think this is actually the quote that never mind. That doesn't matter. I'm going to try and shut the fuck up about the book that isn't out. Okay, wicked spirits have power to hurt and harm. They are vicious, and before Christ jails them in destruction forever, they are doing all they can to bring humans under their wicked power. So if you want to live forever in happiness on earth, after all wickedness is removed, you need to keep free from demon power by keeping away from every kind of spiritism. Okay. God damn it. We can say that today. We can say stuff like that today. God damn it. And we're not afraid to say things on this show. You know? Censorship. I'll say God damn it. The radical left can't stop me. I'm kidding. That's a White Dudes for Harris hat I turned around on Kirby. I felt too cringe. And speaking of cringe, so that quote I just read is from an article entitled "Wicked Spirits Are Powerful" from the brochure "You Can Live Forever in Paradise on Earth." So this is still on their official website, if you can believe it. Since the time of the... Whoa, hang on. I should do my... Wait a minute. What year is this from? I don't think we're in old-timey voice times yet. I gotta save my voice. Since the time of the flood, God has not permitted these demon angels to take on fleshly bodies, so they cannot directly satisfy their unnatural sexual desires. Yet they can still exercise dangerous power over men and women. In fact, with the help of these demons, Satan is misleading the entire inhabited earth. The great increase today in sexual crimes, violence, and other wrongdoings show our need to be on guard against being misled by them. Okay. Very creepy. So this is, this is canonical. It's on the website. You can find it. They want you to see it when you think about it. So, God, this is a really weird thing. Sorry, I'm trying not to look at chat so I don't get distracted. So, witnesses are really persnickety on this one thing that I find so weird, which is that, no, the dead are not alive, okay? People, they have all these fears about the dead talking to them in their sleep, and they're hearing voices and the sound of their dead relatives. No, that is satanic. It's not true. what is true is that it's demons tricking you by doing that voice, like as an impression, like that great Chris Martin impression that I did earlier. There's demons killing people in some literature. Oh, just you wait. Or nods. I mean, you've got things to do. But yeah, we've got just straight up demon murder stories later. Okay, so I said a totally wrong thing, by the way, which is this first quote I read is not. No, it is. Okay, sorry. I got confused because this top quote is from like Russell. From the lore. Wait, I think that I wrote that in. I'm now realizing I have like notes to myself in this that I didn't organize this in any kind of coherent way. But let's just, okay, let's do this. If we cut to the 1970s, all of a sudden, there are so many, wait a minute, this isn't even the right fucking article. I made the right Word document. I pulled up all of these amazing quotes from the Werewolf Bar Mitzvah, Spooky Scary. That's the thing I should have started the stream with. I found these incredible, like the 1970 yearbook. Apparently I didn't send the updated file to myself here, but I should be able to find it. Let's look at the best kept secret in the XJW community. It's a great website that someone made, JWS Online Library. It's got searchable, like the complete archives of Jehovah's Witnesses with PDF files of things, and yearbooks, and like a lot of stuff that's not officially on the website. So if we look at just demons, Satan, and actually no, let's go to 1970. The 1970 yearbook has got quite a bit. Wait, that's 74. Yeah. Okay. All right. God damn it, the word demonstrations coming in here, messing with everything. All right, sorry. While I get that sorted out, let's look at this thing first. All right, so a really, really weird thing that, spoiler alert, is 100% important to the lore of this book is there is a really weird story about basically a demon impersonating Charles Taze Russell. It's very strange. So I'm going to read this entire thing. I do have to take a little sip of the water. Didn't mute that right at all. Not even a little bit. Not even close. Okay.
We remind our readers that about 2 years ago, a variety of incidents was brought...
Wait. Variety was brought? I gotta think about that.
Was brought to our attention, seeming to demonstrate that the fallen angels were more than ever active and that the evidences of their ability to materialize were increasing, and that their reported tendencies towards licentiousness comported well with the record of their fall, as portrayed in the Genesis account. At that time, we suggested the possibility of evil spirits materializing, so as to personate some of the Lord's people, and then committing flagrant crime, and materializing, vanishing, leaving the not guilty one to face the righteous indignation aroused by the crime.
Okay, old-timey language. What they're saying, while making up words like personate, they mean impersonate. But oh, here, we can pull it up. So this is on the archives. I've got this literally, like, on the Internet Archive. So this is an old-ass publication. This is what we're reading from. And I did double check. It does say personate. I don't know why. Maybe back in the day, back in Charles Taze Russell times, so 1910. This is actually from the January 1911 Watchtower, if you want to read it yourself. But I'm not going to read that because it's hard to read that text. So what they're saying is, there were a variety of incidents brought to the attention of the Watchtower leadership. And the incident was that demons were materializing, committing a crime, and then disappearing, leaving the not guilty person, supposedly, I guess, a Jehovah's Witness, seemingly, since they're hearing reports, and they're reminding their readers of these reports. Presumably Jehovah's Witnesses. But this is just what Mysterio does to Spider-Man in the comics, right? Like, am I wrong? Isn't that Mysterio's introduction in the comics? Is like, there's Spider-Man's committing crimes, and it's like, what? This is impossible! And it's Mysterio. Or maybe it's not Mysterio. Chat, help me out. Weird amounts of comic references today. I'm really not that, like, well-versed in comics. Except for Batman and Spider-Man, and both of those have come up. Naturally, I'm not forcing it at all. Okay, so that's what they're saying. Some of the Lord's people, yes. So it's not just that the demons are materializing and committing a crime. It's that they are materializing and then personating some of the Lord's people and then committing flagrant crime. So this sounds like an excuse. It sounds like you're setting up for a big excuse. It sounds like, let's say hypothetically, for the sake of argument, that you're a political campaign and you start to disseminate rumors that there's going to be a big fake leaked video. I think that was my attempt at Ben Shapiro. My voice is fucked up. And so that's something the Trump campaign is. People have argued that they've done. It's just, they have said, like, oh, there's going to be a lot of deep fakes coming soon, so if you see a video that looks suspicious, don't believe it, it's fake. Joke's on them, I don't believe any videos anymore anyway. I assume everything's a deep fake. And also, why would that be the thing to change people's minds after everything else? But it just seems like they're saying, listen, okay, if you hear anything about a crime happening committed by one of the Lord's chosen people, it's probably just that a demon materialized to commit a crime and be like, meh, and then they disappeared, and the cops show up like, hey, and you're like, there's a bag with a dollar sign next to you with a bunch of dollars in it, quite frankly. Okay.
We suggested that possibly, in some such manner, great odium might be brought upon the servants of the truth, and thus upon the cause itself.
By the cause, they mean, like, the movement, the Jehovah's Witness movement, which I guess we still call the Bible students.
We suggested further that possibly the same divine providence which permitted the crucifixion of our Redeemer might permit such experiences, and that possibly through these a great persecution, as unjust as that which came upon Jesus and his followers 18 centuries ago, might come upon us today.
A lot there. Notable that they say crucifixion. They would never use that now. Jehovah revealed that it was not 2 sticks that Jesus was hung upon, sir. It was but one, an upright pole. I would do a bit. I'm doing personations. Oh my god, chat, help me out with some very obvious jokes that I definitely missed. Right. I swear, Your Honor, I didn't rob that bank. It was a demon impersonating me. Now, here's the problem with your defense. You said impersonating. They'd be like, okay, well, if it was the demon, it would have personated you. I didn't let my daughter go to college. A demon did, and then disappeared. That's what that elder should have said in that fake judicial committee. Truly the devil made me do it, or the devil tricked you into thinking that I did it, which is a real galaxy brain defense. Okay. So they detail this scenario that's definitely happening. I'm tempted to play a game of that's not what's happening. I think I already basically did. You're saying this is what's happening.
And then for some 2 years we heard practically nothing along these lines. We had about concluded that the adversary had misled our attention to this direction, in order that he might make the more serious attack upon the minds and hearts of the consecrated. Now, however, after 2 years of silence, we have a report from far off Australia, which seems to confirm our worst fears as respects the course that will be pursued in the time of trouble by the demons, the fallen angels.
I'm going to read my normal voice for endurance, so I can run the race with endurance. Brother Nicholson of the Australian branch writes us of an astonishing circumstance. One of the Australian brethren has a wife who is neither for nor against the truth, and who professes no sympathy for Spiritism. Quite recently, the brother, returning to his home, had a harrowing tale related by his wife. She declared that Brother Russell had appeared to her. Possibly she had seen his photograph. She declared that he made improper proposals to which she yielded. At such a distance, it is easy enough to prove an alibi, to prove that the editor was not there, but suppose the materialization, in all of its particulars, had transpired in Brooklyn, or in the Bethlehem, or in any of the various cities which the editor visits in the preaching of the gospel, or in a Pullman sleeping car, in which he frequently travels. It is easily seen that an alibi might be very difficult to prove in such cases, and what would be true in this respect of the editor might be true in some respects of many of the pilgrim brethren, yea, true of all the Lord's people everywhere. And then he kind of turned into Mayor Quimby, and the guy that Mayor Quimby is based on. So this is crazy, right? This is absolutely... A demon snuck into my room and pooped in my pants. No, honey, that wasn't me you caught on camera with that woman. That was a demon who dematerialized and stopped personating me the instant you turned the camera off. No one's going to do an upright pole joke. Absolutely nuts, right? Okay, so this is crazy because Russell was later tried and admitted to. He denied that he made inappropriate advances at this woman who worked in their house. Was it Roseball who worked in their house? And but they were divorced. Russell and his wife got divorced over it, and there was a trial. And so you could read transcripts of what Russell said, and he's like, "Oh, I'm like a jellyfish, my hands just sort of float around," and it's pretty nuts. We'll have to check the timeline of this when I'm feeling more researchy, but how far before that court case or after that court case was this article? Because this is the most self-serving thing. Seems to me the person can make a pretty convincing argument that Charles Taze Russell is out there doing crimes when really it's just Satan pulling a trick. It's just a stunt. That's a pretty wild one. And yes, finding that quote gave me a lot of ideas. Shit, I'm so annoyed that I apparently pulled the wrong thing. But maybe let's... okay, let's do this. Let's see... Shit, no. This 70 yearbook, if I can find it, it's got so many good ones. I think it's this one. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? This wasn't necessarily the one that I had found earlier that had so many of them. Like, so many yearbook stories about demons. If you want to find some good ones, this is where you go. Okay, so if you don't know, the Yearbooks of Jehovah's Witnesses were a really weird thing they used to print. And they stopped doing it, I guess, around, 2017? Because I'm pretty sure it was the year that me and Christina got engaged. Because we were at this annual meeting together when they made this announcement. Toni Morris said that they were doing away with the yearbook. The yearbook was a yearly book about, amazing, borderline miraculous accomplishments of Jehovah's Witnesses from the previous year. So the 1971 yearbook is all about the amazing things that happened in 1970 all across the world. Because Jehovah's Witnesses, they're worldwide, just like Jesus said his true religion would be in the last days. And look at all of these miraculous stories that prove that the angels are directing our work. Now, they're not really that miraculous. As you might have seen, if you watch the Walletgate stream, just the sheer number of stories in the yearbook about people finding wallets and returning them and that being proof that Jehovah is with the witnesses. Very weird. And so they don't make them anymore, I think, because all of the sorts of anecdotes that they used to put in those books are just turned into video content now. So in addition to people not really reading the yearbook and it being a waste of money to print, that stuff is better served in video form now. That's kind of my theory. And you know what? It's kind of a low-stakes conspiracy theory, but it's been a minute since we've played a sound drop.
Welcome, Internet. I'm so happy to share with you this conspiracy theory.
Yeah, my conspiracy theory, because they got rid of it because they needed to make more videos. And they're like, hey, we're wasting a lot of good stories on this book that nobody really reads. The joke's on them because I read them now. And I didn't really read them as a witness. All right. A brother writes, my wife's fleshly brother came to our beautiful island with his new bride. After they were here for one day, we tactfully approached them with an offer to study the Bible. The offer was accepted. The young woman came to the Kingdom Hall, and after a couple of weeks had completely quit smoking. She said, it is not clean, and I want to be clean. It was as simple as that. It sure sounds simple. From reading it, she talks simply, she doesn't use a lot of words, talks like a clipped robot. During the second study, the husband revealed his involvement in Spiritism, and when they discussed Chapter 7 in the Truth Book, he said, I know there are demons, for I have contacted them! Explanation point! Woo! Bats flying, graphic, wolf howl sound effect. Better stream would have had this. He was quite involved in Spiritism, having started out years ago using the Ouija board, and having graduated to astral projection, which is projecting one's mind away from one's body to another location. When we finished the chapter on wicked spirits, he had thrown all his books on Spiritism and occultism in the garbage. By this time, they were both attending meetings regularly, and this brought further blessings. Although the study with this couple began in October, Halloween month, they both engaged in the ministry in December, and are now a part of the grand family of Jehovah's people. Wait a minute, so a month ago, they were infested with demons and had been practicing Spiritism, and 1 month later, they are going door to door, handing out the Truth Book. Impressive. Here's a word you didn't know Jehovah's Witnesses use a ton. Demonstrated. Because I've had to search for demon stories. And yet, that word demonstrate gets snuck in there in all my Control F situations. Wait, what? I'm seeing the word demon. No doubt the demons are well aware of what the near future holds for them. In Malta, there is a monk reputed to have the powers of a seer in the confessional, being able to know a person's sins before they are even confessed. A woman in one of the villages was having family trouble and made a journey to this confessor in the hope of getting some hidden information by the monk's psychic powers. After being told of the problem, the monk said, "Don't worry about it, my dear. The end of all things is very near." Whoa! Did he know that he was rhyming when he said it? Was he also the rhyming monk confession booth man? Another woman in the same village, somewhat opposed to the truth. On the sliding scale, are you very pleased with the truth, not very pleased, somewhat pleased, or not at all pleased with the truth? She's somewhat opposed. Told this to her husband, who was having a Bible study. He said, "Well, you believe it now, but I have been telling you this for months, and you wouldn't believe it." Her attitude has been markedly more favorable since then. No doubt the demons are well aware of what the near future holds for them. Wow, this is a crazy one. Okay, I didn't read this one earlier. This is a really confusing situation. Oh my god. Okay, so yeah, astral projection, right? It's not the only time they've talked about it, too, because I have that in my research notes as a thing, you know, that's like, I can canonically justify this within Watchtower publications. They've talked about astral projection as being a real thing. Oh, sorry about the water situation. It's really it's a thirsty day.
The water of life.
I'm a water guy. What can I say? That was like Solid Snake. Me with a raspy voice. Okay, so this scenario was somewhat opposed. went to a psychic monk because the psychic knew what sins people were going to do before they did them. It seems to me like he's got a pretty solid shot, given the basic sins that people confess to. I told you were going to take the Lore's name in vain. I can't talk. Oh my god. So, she goes to see a monk, magic man. Got a little choked up there. And the man, who we know to be demonized because he has psychic powers, says, don't worry about it, the end of all things is very near. And from that point on, she's like, oh, wow, if this psychic, who is... Okay, this is where it gets confusing. So the wife is like, okay, the psychic said the end is near, so I'm going to be markedly more favorable toward my husband. But Watchtower is spinning this like, oh, wow, do you see what happens? We know as witnesses that the psychics don't exist, but they're demonized. And so what was happening was a demon kind of let it slip that the end of all things is near. And because we could learn from this that no doubt the demons are well aware of what the near future holds for them. That's a confusing story. I really didn't mean to read such a confusing story. All right, here we go. This sounds like a good one. I just saw some keywords. All right. How important is the Bible study work? Let this experience help. Let this experience help all to appreciate its worth. So this is going to, just to set the scene, it's going to help us appreciate the power of Bible study. And so witnesses are preaching, blah, blah, blah. And part of the miraculous nature of this is that they kept on returning to the same door over and over again, but no one's ever home. And if you're a non-witness who's wondering why witnesses will keep coming to your door, it's because they feel that, it is a life-saving message, and it's their duty to try and preach to everyone that they can. And so they keep track of people who aren't home, so they'll go back and try to get them, because in some way, and Anthony Morris, one of the governing body members, said this outright, that you would be blood guilty if you knew that you could have reached someone and you didn't. You might not make it through Armageddon if you don't preach to everyone. So they're very bullish on return visits, even though probably they're a little bit less weird about it now than they were in 1971, but kind of depends on the witness. So they keep going back to this door. And this is often a setup for miraculous witness stories to show that it's how important it is to do return visits, because you never know why that person's not home. So finally, they met an elderly lady and her daughter who listened attentively and showed much interest. The daughter was a very sick woman who suffered as many as 30 attacks of epilepsy each week and had spent all her savings on trying to find a remedy, but with no success. A Bible study was started with them, and instantly a loud clamoring noise was heard, and thereafter a shadow constantly harassed the mother and the daughter. The alert publisher carefully explained the source of these problems, using many texts and illustrations to show that they were under attack of the demons. And here's where we can't know. Do they mean illustrations in the publications, like the actual drawing illustrations that they used to do, or do they mean, like, metaphors and parables? Hard to say. The studies were continued, and the noise disappeared, as well as the other harassment. 1 month later, the attacks of what they thought was epilepsy also disappeared, and they were able to attend meetings. Joyously, they attended their first assembly from morning until night, because they used to go until night, and for a week. Although previously the daughter had not been able to leave the house to go to the corner store in order to do the shopping because of the demons. I had that part. Now they cannot stop speaking to their relatives and friends of the marvels of the Spirit of Jehovah.
Are they really blaming the demons on epilepsy?
Yes, if you can hear, Christina is even sicker than me. We've been fighting this crud man. And that's one of the scary creatures that we're going to talk about tonight, is the crud man, who's been tormenting us with loud noises ever since we left the witnesses, actually. But yeah, Christina asked, are they really blaming the demons for epilepsy? And yes, they are. I was kind of surprised to find this, actually, because the way they talk about it now, if you read more modern publications, they'll say outright that they don't believe that. Right. That they don't believe it's demons. Mm-hmm. But that's something that they have to say, because why else would you have to say this? Because they used to teach that it was the case. Yeah. Or they would at least strongly imply that some cases of epilepsy just happen to coincide with demonic activity. So, and this is in the 70s. Like, this is stuff that, like, my parents grew up with. It's not that old. So reading this kind of helps me understand why my mom was so much more superstitious. And, like, some witness family members of mine were, like, my cousin just started acting out. Not acting weird, but just acting like probably 11-year-old girl, right? Just have temper tantrums and stuff. And her dad, my uncle, burned all of her CDs, burned them because he was like, she's affected by demons. That's why she's acting this way. So, like, you know, is that my uncle being sincerely concerned about demons, or is he just kind of being cruel and, like, retributive and just being like, I'm gonna, like the Tucker Carlson Daddy's Home speech. Is my uncle Tucker Carlson? Or Tuckle Carlson? Hard to say. Not a scant 2 paragraphs later, we have another demon story. And this is so... What were we dressed as today? I'm not dressed as anything. I put on this shirt, you know, second before we started streaming. She had, like, a really cute hipster witch thing. So she has been doing social work. She's in school for that. And did, like, trick-or-treating with some... I think with some older clients of theirs. And she's also in school. So she wore... Christina, would you say you were, like, a hipster witch, kind of? She didn't respond. That's my description. She's not overruling it. So she didn't have, like, green face paint on and stuff. But she had, like, a cute witch... no. She had, like, a cute, like, Halloween headband. And she had, like, a floral dress that had, like, witch stuff on it. And then she had, like, stockings and cute, like, Converse shoes. It was great. You had to see it. But you can't now. Because now she's in bed. Feeling crappy. She got attacked by the Crud Man. Maybe they'll finally talk about the Crud Man in this next demon story. Okay. This is like a first-person account of another witness telling a ministry story. It's always, like, in the ministry that you find these things. That kind of adds to the creepy nature of these to me, is, like, they're so often, like, narrative and in the first person, which Watchtower publications just so rarely are. When we concluded Chapter 3 of the Truth Book with Mrs. Not sure what happened there. Just a bunch of dashes. I tried to pull up the PDF. I don't know if I just couldn't read the name or that it was just redacted and they didn't do the names have been changed. Can't really tell. So Mrs. A... Fonzie's mom. She destroyed all the religious relics in the house except those of her husband. That night, I guess the night they concluded Chapter 3 of the Truth Book, her husband, whom we knew as a mild, humble person, came under demon attack. He returned home late, armed with a revolver, and accused his wife of deceiving him and threatened to kill her. Fortunately, she was able to reason with him for a short period, but finally he was filled with an uncontrollable rage and stormed out of the house like a madman. She and her 13-year-old daughter began to pray to Jehovah for help. Remembering the points from the Bible study about the attacks of the demons, she determined that her problem rested with the undestroyed religious pictures that were her husband's. Thereafter, they love thereafter. It's a very fancy word. Thereafter, she and her daughter took an axe to them and burned them to his religious pictures and, like, crucifixes and stuff. An axe. What a horror movie way to destroy a religious object that's been demonically possessed. She stated that she felt... Whoa. Okay, so they take an axe to the things. She stated that she then felt real contentment and was ready to face her husband. Oh, later he returned home, and as he entered, she boldly explained what she had done and why. Her husband was very repentant over what had happened, and when the pioneer came for the next study, he said, "The day is not far off when I also will have your faith." Their home is now used to gather the local people together, and shortly we hope to be able to form an isolated group of publishers there. Why isolated? Why? Don't put isolated anyone in the demon house. The special pioneer reports how thankful we are for the privilege of sharing in the Bible study work with the marvelous aid of the Truth Book. This is a little turn of phrase, or just a way of speaking that sticks with Jehovah's Witnesses. How thankful we are. That's just me trying to cope with what the fuck I just... This is like an insane self-report, am I right? Can I get some reactions up in the chat to that? When I was... so this is Warren Graham. When I was in the beginning of the end of my indoctrination happened when I had sleepover. Okay. So you had a sleepover with two guys from the hall. They told scary stories. I got really afraid and cried, thinking that they were involved with demons. When they broke the act and their genuine surprise that I was scared, it was like something in me clicked. Like, oh, it isn't really real. That's fucking crazy. Yeah, okay, so I had a moment one time. I'm sorry you had to go through that, by the way. That's like what a disillusioning thing. A lot of ex-witnesses have said over the years that the organization pushes out the true believers. And I think that's true because, like, if you really take the teaching seriously, you couldn't possibly stay up late telling scary stories and justify it, right? This is why I have really mixed feelings about my parents. Like, I feel like they know better on some level. But that's neither here nor there. Because they would tell me these scary stories, right? And if they were to then say to me, like, wait, I wasn't, like, being serious. That would have really freaked me out. But, like, because my family do take it really seriously, like, they were very afraid of demons. They would do things like burn stuff that might be demonized. If you take all the witness teaching seriously, there's no way you can stay sane, really. Like, because it's so overwhelming. You're so overwhelmed with all of the things that you could possibly do wrong in all of the ways that you are failing, all the ways that you could be inviting Satan into your life. Like, I could always be doing a little bit more for Jehovah, blah, blah, blah. So that sucks. Nosferatu. The Werner Herzog Nosferatu is amazing. Have you seen that? It's so dangerous to conflate domestic abuse and demonic attacks. Yeah, don't call the cops, do a prayer, and destroy your relics. Okay. Glad knowing Carrot is here to get us back on track. To get me back on track. I'm the only one that ever has a problem with that, to be clear. Oh, Bo. Bo just let out the saddest little noise. He's in the window. It's a little chilly in here. There's like a chill going through the window. So this story is really fucking crazy. Let's recap this. Let's try and consolidate this. So these witnesses are studying with someone they met in the ministry. You know, they knock on someone's door, and the person's like, "Yes, I will study with you." And so they're in this person's house. They know the husband as a mild, humble person. So maybe quiet. Maybe a little quiet, eerie in the background. One day, the husband comes home with a gun in an uncontrollable rage and accused the wife of nebulously deceiving him and threatening to kill her. Okay, so they're not specific on what the deception is. So this, whatever the guy is going through, it's unhinged. This is fucking crazy. A husband comes home with a gun and it's like, "You did this to me, I'm going to kill you." Not appropriate. It is a little weird that they just say, he was deceiving him. Don't wonder about what. It's like, what was like the deception that like she was cheating on him? That wouldn't make the violence okay. It would give a different tinge to this story where like they're trying to pin the demons on the religious relics, right? Because then you could say, well, maybe the demons are because of her conduct, like from the JW perspective. I don't like that I was trying to play devil's advocate here or whatever. So But they're just saying, no, it's not that he was an insane and unwell person. It's that he was under control of demons. But the Bible student and the kid legitimately thought it must be demons. And the Bible student thinks this because she's clearly in an unstable marriage with an abusive partner. These two random yuckamuck witnesses off the street who see this woman for half an hour every week, or 1 hour probably, like they don't know what else is happening the other 23 hours of a day. So the guy's just probably abusive and unwell. Comes home one day, threatens to kill her, but now this woman feels that she has a context for this thing, demons, because she's reading this Jehovah's Witness book, and the truth book's very, very demon-y. And so this woman, instead of calling the police, instead of calling a friend, or, you know what, calling the witnesses who are studying with her, like, why doesn't she feel, wouldn't a healthy religion, get to know her as a person, and empower her to be like, if anything ever happens, if you need us for any reason, just call. We're Christians. We like helping people. It would be our pleasure. You know, that's maybe a more modern spin on what a yearbook story would be, because they wouldn't tell this demon story. But it's just not the kind of religion that witnesses are. So instead, the woman's like, no. Here's what we're going to do, daughter. We're going to stay right here. And we're just going to pray, and we're going to take a bunch of fucking physical objects in the house, hit them with an axe. After she destroys them with the axe, and then burns them, which she ropes the daughter into. So now one of the daughter's formative memories at the age of 13 is taking an axe to religious paraphernalia with her mom and then setting it on fire. That's got to be good for you. Foreshadowing. For not a call, maybe. That's fucked, right? That's really fucked that this could possibly happen. And then, of course, the husband comes home to apologize so he doesn't go to jail. But they're correlating this to they destroyed the relics and, burned them. So they got the demons out of there. And then the husband started going to meetings, so it's fine. Or he soon will. The day is not far off when he will have their faith. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy boy. So, that's a crazy story. That's a crazy story. The reason why I say that, foreshadowing for not a call, is like, there is a similar backstory to a character whose, parents were freaked out by demons and stuff. That's wild. That's I think that's got to be the craziest demon story I've read. And there's some pretty crazy ones. Well, Connie, that's not normal. I say this non-judgmentally. Connie M. Hey, I'm late, but the governing body and many elders are the serpentine bloodline. Well, that's not a thing. There's no such thing as a serpentine bloodline. They're just people. They're just humans. And humans can be wrong, as we know, because we were in a cult where we were really convinced of something that was true, but it just wasn't. It wasn't based on reality. And there's no evidence to think that there are, all-powerful bloodlines that span generations and make people evil. That doesn't happen. And, demons aren't real. They're a scare tactic invented by humans to scare people. Of course, unknown things happen. Scary things happen that we can't explain, but that doesn't mean that demons are real. I hope I'm not coming across as, condescending. I'm just giving you my real opinion, because it sounds like you're really, genuinely upset by this. If you see shape-shifting demons when you watch any of the videos, that's not... think about what Watchtower videos are. They're propaganda to trick people into believing Jehovah's Witness stuff. They twist the truth, so they'll just say that apostates are making up stuff about CSA and the organization. Witnesses naturally want to believe that because they want to believe that their religion's true, because it's scary to leave, because they know that there are consequences for leaving. So, they make propaganda, and the point of propaganda is that it's not subtle at all. And people don't need secret, like, demon stuff and symbols to be tricked into believing things. People just believe wrong things all the time. And when you have a belief system where you have to believe in magical things, right? You have to believe in the invisible. You have to believe in demons to be a Jehovah's Witness, because the entire story of the reality you're living in is like the whole world is this grand chess match between Satan and Jehovah. And so you can't really question Satan without questioning God. But that just doesn't really make any sense, you know. No, it would not prove that. It would not prove that. It wouldn't prove that any more than I see a bird in this Rorschach test. Like, I remember sitting, I would do this thing because I have ADHD, and I never could pay attention at the meetings, right? And there was that green carpet in our old Kingdom Hall. Just, like, I've never seen this carpet anywhere. I guess maybe in, like, crappy hotel lobbies in the 70s or something. That was the kind of carpet we had in the Kingdom Hall. So I would stare at it, and I would almost do the thing where you look at the clouds and see what shapes you can see. I would just do that with the patterns in the carpet because I was bored. And sometimes I would see, like, oh, wow, that looks like a scary face. But that wasn't really a scary face. I was trying to find stuff. I was trying to find things just for fun, casually. The more simple explanation is that they make the dumb videos that they make, and witnesses have no choice to believe them, because to doubt them would be to doubt everything, and they can't do that. They're not putting secret, like, hypnotist stuff in the videos. That's, like, why add that in? And what would it mean? Like, what does that say about people who believe in false religions that don't have satanic, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm not convinced by that. Okay, you see? Like, I think that I kind of understand the desire to, like, look at their videos for hidden meanings, but I think that it's not about hiding things in the pictures, because that just doesn't, like, that's counter to their interest. They're not trying to, like, sneak things into pictures. They want the pictures to be very clear. Like, they want that scary picture of, let me see if I can find it. This is, like, my favorite modern piece of JW propaganda. JW.org, temptation computer. I don't want to search pornography. We're on a stream. But there's this picture of, yeah, here it is. So it's this picture, right? So this is an insane piece of, oh wait, it didn't carry over to the right screen. Sorry, I got a bigger version, if you know what I mean. So this picture here, right? Like, this is a fear-mongering picture. It is using Satan to scare witnesses into not just not watching pornography, but, like, don't go on any websites on the internet that might take you down the path of questioning your beliefs. This guy could just as easily be looking at the XJW subreddit thinking, well, should I click on this? And so what do? They have a big scary picture with Satan, the roaring lion, as a ghost, watching the computer, and then taunting God, because that's what they say the teaching is. They're like, everything you do, Satan's watching you, and the angels are watching you, just seeing what you're going to do. And when you do something bad, God taunts, Satan taunts God, like, God. Very silly. But this picture stayed in my mind forever. Like, I always thought of this picture. It's not because there's anything hidden in it. It's because it is so clear and obvious what it means. Like, I would think about this image every time I was at the computer, even though I did not believe that Satan was like a literal lion behind me. So that's kind of what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to say, the reason why I kind of wanted to go on this tangent is because, to me, like, one of the more fulfilling and just, like, one of the reasons why I'm happier now and why I just feel like it's so worth leaving the witnesses is losing that fear of demons, losing that fear of being constantly judged by God. Now, I lost that fear because I genuinely don't believe it, and I can't, like, tell you what to believe and just change your mind. But there's always a simpler explanation that makes just as much sense, usually more sense, because as soon as you have to introduce like invisible things, or like someone's got a sneaky plan, they're hiding things, like it's more complicated. The very simple explanation is that humans, we get tricked a lot. We believe things that aren't true. We see patterns when they're not there. It's a survival tactic we developed. Our brains evolved to see patterns, but sometimes we see patterns where they're not there. And so we can just be wrong. And it's really, as soon as we believe something, there's a lot of research on this, just overwhelmingly, you're 70% more likely, which maybe higher, to believe something that reaffirms your beliefs than something that undoes your beliefs, right? Like, you're more willing to keep believing the thing that you already believe than you already challenge it. And so, like, I think that just explains so much of Jehovah's Witness beliefs. Like, they can keep trotting out more and more ridiculous things. If tomorrow on jw.org they announced, you know what we're going to do now? We're going to all wear uniforms with jw.org on the logo. We're going to ship them out to all the congregations. You got a little outfit now you're going to wear. You just got to wear that all the time. Here's the scriptural justification. It's like in the Israelites, how they had to wear a certain garb. Witnesses would be like, oh, that's weird. But you know what? We're in the end. And the Israelites in the Bible, and like, they could say that and witnesses would do it. I just made that up off the top of my head. But that's why they do the things they do, is because when you believe something, like, you have to keep believing it. Otherwise, you have to really start asking yourself hard questions, and your brain just doesn't want to do that. Like, it wants to keep you safe. But sometimes, like, you need to confront those hard things. And so, like, to me, I encourage you to challenge your beliefs on this, because if I'm right, oh my God, your life is so much better. You don't have to worry about that at all, because even if you think you see a satanic symbol somewhere, it doesn't matter, because Satan's not real. You know, like, I've got this is from a video game. This is from the Legend of Zelda video game. But I've had people ask me if it's like a satanic symbol. Also, at this point in my life, you know, like, I've written this book about demon possession within Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, this is the most blasphemous thing I could possibly have ever done. I think my family might have, you know, thrown me in a trash can if they knew that their Jehovah's Witness baby would grow up to write a book where I wrote about Satan, you know, tormenting Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, I think that they would have made a mistake, because it's a good book. It's very compassionate and less cynical than you think. But yeah, I think that's... What the fuck were they talking about being thrown in a dumpster? Oh yeah, I've just done a lot of blasphemous things. Like, I own books on demons that I use for research. I don't believe in this stuff at all. Now, one thing I will say is that I do think for people who do have beliefs in, like, spirits and stuff, they tend to have an experience that I definitely haven't had. At this point, I kind of think, like, I feel like I'm trying to have an experience, and it's just not happening. But we were talking to a friend last Halloween. We went over to a friend's house and watched scary movies. And I was really surprised, because he's an atheist like me, right? Total worldly person. We were over there watching blasphemous movies and all that shit. And he's like, you know what? I do believe in ghosts now, because and he explained why. I had this experience. And he's like, and I don't know how to explain it. There's something. I just haven't had that. But the Headless householder story, tell us about that. Please tell us. Also, thank you for saying my tattoos were cool. Grubber Wubber. Whoa, the Headless householder. Holy shit. I've got so many tabs open. Oh my God. Okay, I think we got to get to, because it's kind of sinking in on me now that we've been going for 90 minutes, and it is a work night for me. I have to get up early. Even though I'm sick. America. Also, now that I've, like, been in a live stream, I feel like if I called off, I'd be like, we actually saw you live on the internet last night. You seemed fine. Headless householder. We got to find this. And then, I want to listen to a little bit of this demon talk. It's honestly a little triggering, so I don't want to, like, upset people with it. But I think it's kind of worth listening to, because to me, sometimes, like, you hear this stuff with your new perspective, and you're like, oh my God, like, how did I believe that? but not in a self-hating way. Not like, oh my God, I'm so stupid, but like, we're all so stupid. We can all be tricked. It's silly. I'm so glad that I don't believe that now. Like, so I find it kind of useful to engage this stuff. Sequences of sounds, which is a cool. Is this a YouTube channel? That sounds like a YouTube channel-y name. We were trained to look for things that weren't there all the time. Every time something happened in the world, we had to try and fit it into some prophecy, or would somehow lead to Armageddon. Oh, that's really true. That's a really great point. Because, and it's not even that. It's like little things in your life. Just something good happens to you throughout your day. You're like, oh, Jehovah. Thanks, Jehovah, for that. Even if it's something that, like, you did. No, you didn't, because everything good that we do is only because we have Jehovah. You know, this is the kind of thing that, like, now my parents say, like, we couldn't have raised you as good as we did without Jehovah. I'm like, you don't believe that. Like, they're good. You knew, like, my worldly little kid friends at school. They had good parents. Like, it's not, you don't need God. It's not because of Jehovah, but you're right. That adds to the culture of you're constantly looking for things. And that's kind of interesting. All right. Why are people not telling me the Headless House? Oh, Scott Jones. Author Scott Jones, by the way. Pick up his book, Trill, if you want something that is, is a little psychological horror about Jehovah's Witnesses. And go and look at our past stream through the live feed archives on this channel. We had a really fun conversation. We reacted to leaked convention videos. It was great. I think it's one of the best streams we've done. Okay, Scott Jones. Two brothers call in a house, and the guy opens the door with no head. Demons were clouding the perception of his head, but the Bible study made them stop, basically. There's a ton of extra details, but yeah, that's the basics of it. Wow, that is fascinating. That is so interesting. As you will see when we read the opening of the book. So I've never heard that story. There's a similar conceit in Nautical about demons kind of clouding people's vision. But I was thinking of the way witnesses say that, like, Satan has blinded the eyes of people, put this veil over the world. I was thinking of stuff like that. That's crazy. So the explanation in this story is that there was, like, demons basically wearing the cloak of, like, a cloak of invisibility, but just around the area where the head is. Like, if Ethan Hunt passed that little projector screen that he used in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol in front of that lady's face, it would kind of have the same effect. Is what you're saying word for word? Great. I think I explained it really, really well. It wasn't even confusing, so I don't know why I'm explaining it. There's so many variations of the Bible study one, especially the one where the Bible study gets burnt with hot tea water. What? Okay. Oh, wait. No, I know this one. I know that one. How to get burns. How to get burns. All right. So we're picking up good vibrations. Here's what we're going to do. I got to take a little bit of a pee break, and I got to grab a little snack. We're going to listen to a little bit of a demon talk, and then I'm going to read a little bit of nautical. We're going to go to sleep with the bedtime story. If you're in my time zone, depending on where you are in the world, you might be starting your day with goddamn demon stories. But I think you can read horror at any time of the day. Kind of gives you an interesting mood when you read a horror book first thing in the morning. Makes you think about all the weird things in life. You can tell it's going to be a good book because I can say good sentences like that. Where the fuck is my silence thing?
Have you ever been confronted by a bad report, a false report about Jehovah's people? Angry? Did God really say that? Now, that was a lie. Satan here's one. A lie. Nothing. No.
All right. By the way, we love to see it. Robin Brooks got to take my demon kiddos trick-or-treating. We'll catch the rest on replay. I love that. I love to see it. I know. His voice. Blood. Keeping the congregation clean. That was pretty good for right off the dome, huh? Oh my god, what the fuck? It's fucking... I'm like, I've tried like the different lighting. That's okay. That's better. It's a little darker now than it was when I started. Alright. Sorry that we weren't doing this lighting the whole time. You'll have to trust me that it didn't look good when the stream started. Alright, so I've got this demon talk. Here's the thing about this. I don't know how... What I was trying to do is, like... I tried to bring this into DaVinci Resolve and de-hiss the audio a little bit, like do some noise reduction, because there's some little bit of ear unpleasantness happening. There's like loud hissing sound, but I think it kind of adds to the vibe. So I'm almost like worried about sharing too much of this, but sorry, I mean like too much stuff like this in the channel, because witnesses really do have these channels where they've got all these great talks. They're not great. He's calling them the great talks. So he thinks this talk is really great, apparently. I would argue it is not. I would argue it is really disturbing talk. But on some of the channels, they've got comments turned on. This one does not. And you can see it's like all witnesses watching, like, oh, thank you, brother, for this. I'm like, oh, I remember this, brother. He's so great. I love that. It's been making me think, like, what's the take on that? Like, that would be an interesting area to examine, the way that witnesses feel comfortable transgressing in this small way. They know that people aren't supposed to upload talks to YouTube, but somebody did, and there's nothing like... There's no rules about not listening to talks on YouTube. It's just you're not supposed to upload them. So it's interesting. And seeing the nostalgia in the comments and seeing like thousands of likes or views on these videos, it's impressive. Like there's thousands of witnesses just watching old talks that they're like technically kind of not supposed to. I don't know. But this is one of them. He's got comments turned off. Makes sense for this video, but I don't know how well you'll be able to hear it. So let me know if it's inaudible.
Now let's get down to what our theme is. The chairman mentioned it.
It's pretty fucking quiet.
Not underestimate the devil's designs. So it's very apparent that the devil has considerable influence in the world today. In fact, you know well the text that says the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one.
Okay, so he starts to talk about that. Let me know how that sounded. It's pretty quiet, but the subtitles actually aren't bad. He's talking so slowly that the automatic subtitles on YouTube can keep up pretty easily. So he talks about, he's Satan, he's got an agenda. I only listened to like the first 9 minutes of this, so we can skip through and see if there's any creepy specifics. But he had a runner where he did like 3 memes that I do on this channel in a row. Like he hit like a real hard notice. Hit a real hard notice with me, please. Like that kind of thing. Can't quite...
So the thought that he's just simply after God's people collectively or as a group...
Can I increase this audio?
It's not the case. He's your adversary. He strives against
So the title of this talk: Do not underestimate the devil's designs, Brother J.R. Brown. Isn't J.R. Brown that political streamer who's funny? I discovered him recently. He kind of does similar things where he does voice alteration stuff, likes doing meme editing and stuff. Maybe J.M. Brown. J.M. Brown, come on the show.
The question is not whether you are ever going to be in some big clash with him, showdown or fight, because you will, you are, maybe you have already.
All right, so this is really scary right off the bat. You are going to have a personal fight with Satan, and this is when I knew this was a proper demon talk. So when he started saying this stuff, he's emphasizing that it's not just that, well, demons are around, you got to worry about them. It's that Jehovah's Witnesses are targeted by demons on an individual level. They've got your dossier, they know your weaknesses, they're studying you. As we know from that picture earlier, they can just kind of stalk you all the time in the background, perhaps in the form of a lion. And they do that so that they can then look up to God and be like, so that's what he's doing here.
But the real question here is, when it happens, are you going to win? Because an adversary is an opponent. Opponent draws you into some type of a fight. And when you have a fight, you have a winner and you have a loser.
Good definition of what, a fight? It was just the word fight? Oh, opponent. Or an adversary. Okay. I'm that's a real rudimentary word. He's like, okay, so Satan's an adversary. And an adversary is... He did a Webster's Dictionary defines.
Some type of a fight. And when you have a fight, you have a winner and you have a loser. So that's what the real question then becomes. Now here's the encouraging part. We do not have to lose in spite of the power and awesomeness of our adversary. In fact,
wow, that is great news. I was like, do I have to lose even though I have the power and awesomeness of Jehovah at my side? Oh, no, I see. We do not have to lose. See, the good news is don't worry, you can win this fight. This boxing match between you and personal demon number 33.
You say there is only one way we would come out a loser. What would you say that is?
If you come out, you're not a loser.
If we leave the protection of our God, Jehovah, then we're vulnerable, and we could come out the loser. But as long as we stay close and draw ever closer to Jehovah God, even though the devil is as powerful as he is.
All right, I'm just going to pause it because, imagine there was video for this. The fucking light. See, this is why I didn't have this light earlier. It's because I don't know why it doesn't like to focus. Whereas that clinical looking light focuses a little better. The pauses are unreal. He's talking so slow. I wish there was video, because it would be the most iconic awkward silent supercut of all time. Sadly, it's not the kind of world we live in.
Having the whole world in his power, we have enough protection that he cannot take us down as the world would put things now.
I don't really, because I don't know. I just live streaming. I enjoyed live streams as a witness. Started doing it because I like it, and so I just don't think of it in those terms. And I definitely don't love the comparison. Not because you said anything wrong. Just I know that Watchtower likes to say the apostates, they want to pull witnesses out and accumulate followers for themselves, and it's not really about that. I just want YouTube followers for my own personal vanity. It's not I don't need them to be Jehovah's Witnesses at all. They can all stay in the religion. Just give me 1 million non-JW subscribers. I'm happy. But no, you're right. It is pretty cool. What is cool is like, hey, this is at least like a congregation of people that left Jehovah's Witnesses. Succubusy. Why are we hearing about succubi? Oh, okay. People are talking about, are there hot demons? Yeah, of course. Succubusy is really good. Is this a cult? Yes. Wait, you mean this YouTube channel? Yes, absolutely. They're very strict rules. I keep strict attendance. And if you don't show up to this stream, I'll be knocking on your door, be texting you.
Now, here is what the problem is in dealing with the devil, and here is why we give the thought, don't underestimate his designs, and that is because he works with great subtlety. And he is so subtle at times, it makes him so difficult to deal with, because he will sort of try to lure a person into a situation that's going to cause him to maybe place in jeopardy his relationship with God or his good standing in the congregation.
Okay, this is really critical, actually. We haven't even gotten to the demon stories of the demon story talk, but like this is so important. I think this really informs the conversation we had earlier. I don't know if our friend, who I hope I wasn't mean to, who was I talking to in chat that was like, you know, that kind of believes in demons. Connie M. Okay. Well, if you don't fear it, then I think that's healthy, by the way. But I think that kind of thought of like, ooh, maybe there's something hidden in the background, it kind of comes from that thing where our conception of Satan as Jehovah's Witnesses is he is so sneaky, so crafty that you kind of can't even possibly know that it is him. You can only think it probably is because you have this enemy. Like thinking of Satan to the point where any slight hiccup in your life could be part of a long con by the devil to get you to leave Jehovah's Witnesses. That probably does like leave. I don't know. Like that kind of does make sense to me with the like Satan is planning images and stuff. I always kind of wondered why would Satan do that, but it ties into the Satan is like this schemy planner guy. Oh my god, we got a really good comment from a wait, no, that's not the comment from you I wanted to show. Somebody said that I deserve an apostrophe, like apostrophe. It's great. And I'm going to use an apostrophe when I use contractions.
Now, here's what someone is thinking.
Here's what someone's thinking. Not you.
They're saying, you say the devil is subtle in his design, and he will try to lure people into
now I know what you're
a
thinking.
situation to get them to displease God and thus draw back from God. But they say, I know for a fact the Bible says we are not ignorant of his designs.
Wow.
So they say, how do you reconcile the two? They say, if we know what his designs are...
He really did the math. He's like, oh, I really came at this talk from all the angles. I know exactly what the objection is going to be here. It's not the fundamentally ridiculous thing I'm saying. All right, let's see if we can find at least one spooky actual demon story.
Or when it says to quit mixing in company with anyone called a brother, that is...
It's raining outside now. Maybe some of that noise will seep through.
But
he's just reading scriptures.
When it comes in the family, then instead of strictly applying that, a soft application is made of that text. Enough examples. So we can...
He said text, not tech, by the way, if you're just reading the subtitles. All right, I guess he's saying even if it happens to your family, you have to be aggressive.
See, all of these designs of Satan
Enough
are
of these
known.
examples.
Nothing new. Materialistic. Try to do.
Oh, wait, you know what we can do? Let's look at the
He
transcripts.
can't spring on you.
Hashtag read the transcript. Am I right, libs? Big Clash. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any fun stuff. Look at the million times. Yeah, okay. He's just talking about like generic materialism shit. Okay, well, this is... That actually seems too triggering. I don't want that. He started talking about something, and I'm like, oh, that seems specific to my life. It'll bum me out. I just saw in the subtitles that he was saying, like, oh, Satan could try and trick you into leaving the witnesses to pursue a passion. I'm like, that is what I thought when I was a witness. When I wanted to pursue my passions. Ooh, disfellowship.
They disfellowship, 1 Corinthians 5:11.
Disfellowship.
But sometimes when it comes into family, then instead of
a lot of
strictly
scriptures
applying that, a soft application is made of that text. Enough examples. So we can see all of these designs of
He
Satan.
really, just scrolling through this, he takes a real walk. He takes a real walk around the Bible to get to the part where he starts telling some fun stories. Talking about Job and shit. I mean, first 20 minutes. Oh. It sounds like we've got an illustration. I think let's de-cleanse from these spooky vibes with an illustration he's going to give.
Considering his designs, that while known...
Satan's designs, his plans, blueprints...
What his methods are, and that he has nothing absolutely new, we don't know.
Oh my God, Lo.
Craft
Stay
this
sane.
for us. Let's illustrate it. How many know something
Thanks.
about baseball?
That really,
Let me
I
see
really
if
appreciate
this
that.
is going to work here. Okay. Big league town, you ought to know something about
Oh, baseball.
I
love baseball even more than my wife. I'm trying to make an honest to God catchphrase. And it's keeping us safe, to keep God in our minds and hearts today. I'm trying to make an actual jw.org out of context video. I tried to do that before, and it just turned into memes and goofy edits. I want to do that, where I'm not editing shit. It is just actual clips from jw.org out of context. One that stands out to me is really funny is, I think I play it in the JW recipe video. And it's just this story of a husband and wife who had marital troubles. He's like, back then, baseball was more important to me than even my wife. He says, and it's like showing this dramatization where a guy's like, listening to an old-timey radio and being like, yay.
there's a pitcher. And there is a batter.
Oh, I will.
And, of course, the pitcher's idea is to strike the batter out.
All right.
So the batter
so
is
far, so
at
good.
the plate, and he's waiting for the pitch. Question, does he know what kind of pitch will come there?
Yes.
He doesn't know that. All he knows is, I'm at the plate, that's the pitcher, he's going to throw the ball somewhere near the
That's
plate.
the picture.
He'd like to get it
subtitles.
over the plate in some part so he gets a strike.
Really detailing the mental math
You
of
can throw
the
a fastball,
pitcher
you can
and
throw
the
a
hitter are going.
You can throw a curveball.
Oh, curveball, you say?
You can throw a nasty curveball.
Oh my God, are we going to hear about Satan's nasty balls? I mean nasty curveballs? And Satan's nasty knuckle and balls? Satan could throw us some nasty balls.
So it isn't enough just to know, I'm
really
going
figure
to
out
the
this guy's
plate, this pitcher's
accent.
going to throw the ball. The pitcher sort of holds the key to it because he can go out to that plate
Echo's
and
joining
he
us,
can
by the
throw
way.
what he wants. And frankly,
Oh my God.
that's why good hitters strike
I cannot believe how long he is dragging this on for. Now here's something else. You've Fucking Eve bullshit. Give me a story. I can't believe I found this talk and he's not telling me all sorts of scary stuff about furniture flying around the room. Bible. No, stop it with this Bible stuff. Okay, 27 minutes in, he's still talking about baseball.
But it happens. This time, the speedster, he makes it to first. Now, notice the scenario
Notice
set up when
in the baseball scenario.
First. Basically, everybody as the opponent gets nervous because they know he's going to try to outwit
This is
them.
incredible. You cannot know. You cannot know how devastating it is to know how much of my life I spent just sitting, listening to this shit without being able to make fun of it. You know, if you make fun of something, you're at least doing something useful, putting something out there into the world. Whoa.
The congregation. That's what Satan wants. Just start nibbling at it.
Oh, start nibbling.
Because then he goes into action trying to outwit the person.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Oh, this is like bad association stuff. I want to see if he talks about... Okay, so he talks about this scenario where, like, a coworker is trying to get you to come out after work. Little by little, you're like, oh, okay. Surely they won't be bad association, you think, as a foolish witness.
Why don't we eat together? There's
Oh, why don't we eat together?
a nice little place here, and then we can talk. And so she feels, well, what's wrong with eating? I do eat alone, and
she said, eating ain't cheating.
So they eat together at noontime, and then the conversations become a little more frequent while they are in the workplace. You see his design. He's moving little by little. He doesn't know that Satan is maneuvering him in order to get our sister in a situation that compromises her fate.
So how is it happening? I never understood this. I think that's like why I've not made another Satan Doesn't Make Any Sense video. That's really one of my favorite thingies. Holy shit, thanks to Zippered Bell for 10 all-worldly memberships. So do those just like automatically distributed to chatters? Do you have to like claim them? Not sure. This guy, first of all, part of the creep factor is this guy being like, we can go eat around noon someplace nice. Satan's gonna give a little nibble. Just the whole lascivious tone is really weird. But okay, back to the topic at hand. How is Satan doing stuff? If the guy doesn't know that he's tricking the sister and the sister doesn't know that Satan's involved, then what is he doing? Is there like by some supernatural force, is he like,
you're attracted to that lady. Ask her out to dinner. Wait. Back up. Noontime. So it's not like a sexy date.
Like, what? Right? Free will. Not according to God, because he allows invisible demons to manipulate you. Like, what? So, how could you ever know, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, that it's not the demons trying to tell you to go to the meetings? Makes you think about novels a person would write about that.
Maybe after that. What about afterward?
Oh, a little sexy time. A little bit of wine and cheese.
See, it's little by little. He's trying to...
Little by little, by hook or by crook.
Outwit her. No, Satan is behind it.
Outplay and outlast her.
But he is using him.
Whoa!
To pitch to her. Something that he wants to hear. Something that she would like to hear. Something that he says.
Ew, what?
And next thing you know, nibbling at it little by little, it often leads to a very bad situation.
Wow. He's talking about sex. The very bad situation is extramarital sex. Sexual Congress. My favorite part of the government. What? I don't know. Hopefully Jerry Minor doesn't watch that part of the stream. That was fucking crazy, by the way. That's just catching up to me now that he was in here. That's really cool. Okay, so this is really creepy. Like, are you telling me that this isn't the kind of guy that could think that he was possessed by a demon and then try and kill his wife, and then the wife destroys all their religious artifacts and he feels better again? Like, this is not a well person. This is a really creepy talk. The way that he's talking about this is he's taking a lot of joy in spinning this yarn. And that's my job. Like, that's what you do when you're kind of telling a fictional story, right? Which it is. He's just talking about a hypothetical scenario. Blech. Coitus. Coitus. One of the worst words.
We have too many of them.
Wow. Okay, tell me about fucking furniture flying around.
Now, is this just something imagined? Oh, look at what Paul said here.
No, enough with this Bible crap.
When it comes to Jesus Christ.
I want him to... I would love for him to mention, like, some piece of pop culture iconography or do the thing that witnesses would do, like CEOs would do, like, now we don't have rules about entertainment. But if there were perhaps a romance film with a vampire, is drinking blood something that Jehovah will be happy with? No. Like, I want to hear him kind of reference Twilight or something like that.
You recall the second test. He basically challenged...
Huge part of the reason why they have a problem.
Well, if you are a son of God...
I mean, if we're talking spooky, to get real for a second, Jenny B brings up, what's to prevent pedos from claiming that demons made me do it? They do believe that. I mean, witnesses believe that demons are responsible for things like that. If you ever have been around a witness, when they hear about something like that happening on the news, you know, they just hear of child sexual abuse in the news, or there's like a massacre, like a terrible shooting, they'll be like, that's Satan. That's how you know Satan's real, because you can't explain that. No human could do that. It could only be Satan. And that's a reason why abusers are allowed back in, is because the leadership genuinely thinks that it was satanic influence. And now, because they are a more fervent servant of Jehovah, that, you know, maybe the demons are gone. And maybe that person's not allowed to be an elder again, but he's allowed back in the congregation. He's allowed to be at the congregation picnic, you know, stuff like that. Do you believe in the paranormal, Jake? No, I don't. I love paranormal stories. Like, I love paranormal and supernatural horror. Love it. I don't believe it's real. I definitely believe that there's stuff that we don't know. Like, there are just things about the physical world that we can't yet perceive with scientific instruments. I mean, I've had a couple puffs on the old peace pipe, I'll tell you that. But I don't believe that that's true. I just would... Like, I would be willing to accept that premise, that there's stuff that we don't know. Like, that seems safe. But that thing being demons, I don't know. And even the energy stuff that people talk about is, like, a little too vague to me. But there's a spiritual concept that I really do like. I don't know that I believe in it in a literal sense, but I kind of believe it. Well, I guess a spiritual sense, I don't know. It's the concept of thin places, which, as I understand it, has its origins in Celtic mythology, although other cultures have similar ideas. But the spirit world and our world are close together. But there are places where that barrier is thin. The firmament, as the King James Bible would say, that barrier between the spirit realm and the physical world is thinner, and so you get a vibe. You get that vibe because you are closer to the spirit world. I like that, you know. I like that kind of thing. It has a certain truthiness to me. What that means, I don't know. I would probably interpret it as some kind of quantum space-time bullshit, knowing me.
I know Scripture says if you hurl yourself off a high place.
Yeah, I mean, I find all that mysticism stuff really interesting. I find it valuable to, like, read about and think about.
Angels to catch you before that, and you wouldn't even...
Okay, tell me about a shelf or a garage sale. Yeah. Flesh is craving to have satisfaction.
Entertainment, music, and advertising.
Ha! Okay, we're getting to
Sexual
entertainment. You might tell us about Twilight.
saturate people's consciousness.
Me too. The
God's
Force...
servants are not immune.
The Force... So Star Wars, Lost, and The Good Place kind of all feature a kind of spirituality, especially like the very end of The Good Place, that I really connect with, that makes a certain kind of sense to me. Like, I would like to believe that. I hope that's true. And I guess that's where I'm at with that. Oh, The Good Place is iconic. Holy forking shirt balls. I have crushes on that entire cast. I can't start talking about The Good Place. I love it too much.
To this assault. In fact, the majority of those disfellowshipped from the Christian congregation are individuals who succumb to such practices. Only by continually repudiating these immoral suggestions will a Christian remain chaste. So there's the fact. Fleshly desires.
Fleshly desires.
These are fed by Satan, it said, through
this is an important word.
The music, the advertising.
Through the music and the advertising. This also, like, Witnesses definitely perpetuate the subliminal messaging thing, because, and it's very evangelical. It's entirely that. Like, there's still so much in the Christian evangelical movement. They still do that stuff where, like, oh yeah, it's these liberals, but they mean, you know, Jewish people putting like hidden messages and shit. I'm not projecting that conspiracy theory onto anybody in chat. Nobody has brought that up, but I'm saying, like, I think the seeds for that kind of thinking are placed within Jehovah's Witnesses, where, like, Satan is trying to subtly trick you with the media. And it's like, okay, propaganda is the thing you can just understand from a secular viewpoint. And then you don't have to be scared of a scary demon. You can just be a thinking, critical person, be aware of propaganda, and just, you know, do your best. Wow, great point by Matt Wilshner, which one of our 10 new members, by the way. Wade, he defines adversary, but not impudiating. That's a great point. Do you ship Chidi with Eleanor or Eleanor with Tahani? Well, the answer is both. The answer is you can't really pick that. I love, I don't know. I like who everybody ends up with. I love Chidi and Eleanor so much. Kristen Bell, I've been crushing on her for a long time. I think the first rated R movie I ever saw was probably Forgetting Sarah Marshall, because I just wanted to watch it because all my favorite funny people were in it. And it's great. It's still a favorite movie of mine. But she's amazing. I love her in The Good Place. I've weirdly never seen Veronica Mars. What else is she in lately that I really liked? Can't think of it. Some movie. But she's... everything I've ever seen her in is great. Love Janet and Jason together. I'm so sad they canceled that Star Wars show that Jason was in. He was so fucking good in it. Like, that show, like, was fine, but I really liked all the actors in it. I thought it was going somewhere really interesting.
Mass media picks up television and magazines and newspapers, and because
demonic
of the
magazines
inundation with these sexual messages and innuendos, it said many of God's people are not immune from this assault, fall victim.
This is an assault. Reading magazines that have innuendos in them is an assault from Satan to give in to your fleshly desires. Wow, he's being vague. This is disappointing, Chad. I'm really sorry. Why aren't we hearing a scary demon story? Look at this. He's just... Bibles all the way down. Whoa. I just want to hear him say this.
God implanted the sexual desire in Adam and in Eve, and he married them.
Whoa.
So within the marriage arrangement, it was proper and appropriate to fulfill that normal desire.
Interesting. So bend of this talk isn't necessarily supernatural stories, but like really trying to hype up how satanic it is to just like have extramarital sex. Sexual desires in themselves are not wrong or sinful. It's just you got to be married to the opposite sex, and to each give their due, or whatever that is. Ooh, oh wow! Here's a thing that I know that apparently this channel can play, but I think if I played this, it would get demonetized. I might have to read that. It doesn't matter.
Wrong if someone seeks to satisfy it outside of that marital arrangement. If they seek to satisfy it by pornography, if they seek to satisfy it by voyeurism, peeping Tomism, self-abuse, adultery, fornication, the list goes on and on. Why? Because the devil...
I know he didn't say peeping Tomism.
Satisfied by voyeurism, peeping Tomism.
That's got to be one of the best isms ever talked about. It might not even be wrong. I mean, if you read enough nonfiction books, you realize you can just put ism at the end of basically anything. Anytime you can shorten language, it's fine. Peeping Tomism, I don't know. I think he should have settled on voyeurism. And I make this mistake as a writer, which you'll see if you read my rough draft of the first 130 pages. I do tend to, say the same thing twice, two different ways, instead of just settling on one good way. I don't know if that's good writing or bad writing, but I think I might get it from Watchtower. Because voyeurism and peeping Tomism is the same thing. Self-abuse.
The list goes on and on. Why? Because the devil has used these other designs to lure people in to satisfying sexual desire.
Those words, Satan designs lure. Like, they're very vague. He will never specify what these designs are, how they work, what are the exact mechanisms by which Satan either invented or proliferates pornography and then tries to get witnesses to watch it. Like, how is that working? I don't know, but it sort of conjures the image of like pulleys and levers in a laboratory, and like that's just the Satan strings. Puppet strings. The Satan, well, when he has them, are they not Satan strings? Yeah, like they have all these images, and Let just last year gave that creepy talk, which they have not deleted from the website, where he says that everybody in the world is capable of being used as a puppet of Satan, either wittingly or unwittingly. So really, what good old J.R. Brown is saying...
in a wrong and improper way. And the circumstance there...
Yeah, that way
so important.
So you don't forget to not think about
because it helps us to realize more is involved than simply satisfying some craving or desire that in itself may not be wrong. What are the circumstances?
Has it? I thought the Acolyte was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. I just thought that the writing was weak in terms of the actual, like, the dialogue could have been more clever, but in terms of, like, the storyline and stuff, I thought it was really cool. I was really into it. I mean, I'm kind of bought in on the whole Dave Filoni Rebels, Clone Wars stuff, so I was eating up Ahsoka. I loved it, but was that actually a show? I don't know. It definitely was a long prelude to a movie, but it was a long prelude to a movie that I enjoyed. I would really only say the Boba Fett show straight up sucked shit.
Has Satan designed something there that makes the satisfaction of such a desire wrong because it is not...
We've got a lot of close relatives of Mr. Ed.
So?
What?
We have to have that in mind.
We have to have that in mind. So just keep that in your mind, that Satan could be doing complicated schemes in a way we'll never specify in any way. Just give us a fucking cool story. That would just really bring it all together, wouldn't it? What I find kind of interesting about this, just how long he goes on about these just few Bible stories, is that, Satan's not in the Bible all that much, actually. God, it's almost a hacky talking point for atheists, but God kills way more people in the Bible than Satan does. Satan arguably doesn't kill anybody in the Bible directly. I like this sentence in general.
And it's a way that Satan, the devil, uses today to try to outwit persons. Or getting them to feel, well, this isn't that bad.
To try to outwit persons. It's a very witnessy sentence. I gotta do a persons pass on nautical. I gotta add in more instances of them saying persons. Oh. This is a little spooky sounding.
When someone is not really keeping up their spirituality through their personal studies, through their meetings and prayer, it can clearly be said they're underestimating the devil's design, because they may be thinking that they can face these pressures and these tests alone without God's backing.
And how foolish that would be, to think you could handle any sort of pressure in life without Jehovah's backing. Thinking that you don't need God is right where the devil's going to get you, because he's crafty, he's sneaky. Getting pretty close to the end here. He hasn't said any scary stories. He's reading these scriptures that he's saying are like things to keep in mind when you're faced with the devil. But like, it's just pray and go to meetings and say Jehovah a lot. Going along to some extent in the direction that Satan is pressuring them in the system. Jesus. He just goes on about the same shit.
Cleanse your hands. They are the state of things that show a repentant frame of mind. And
repentant frame of mind.
In with what the next one that is when it says, let your laughter be turned into mourning and your joy into dejection. In other words, they were feeling life was just fun and games, recreation, pleasure, good times, waiting for the evenings or weekends so they could do things that brought pleasure to the flesh. They were not taking things so seriously, sort of like, you see, in other words, they were feeling life was just fun and games. Joy into dejection. In other words, they were feeling life was just fun and games. Recreation, pleasure, good times. Waiting for the evenings or weekends so they could do things that brought pleasure to the flesh. We're not taking things so seriously.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted.
You see, today in some
I was just saying dumb things. Unlike normal. Okay. So we gotta have congregations do stuff to keep the young people busy, because otherwise
little Jimmy Johnson might be going out to one of these secular music concerts where rock and roll music is played to the shrieking sounds of teenage girls, surely possessed with Satan himself. Peeping Tomism, Beatlemania.
Going on anywhere, they'll drive 100 miles to see what's happening. What's going on there.
What?
I've seen them hear about a concert somewhere and get on a plane and fly there.
Wow, young people, it's crazy. Unlike normal people, young people will travel to somewhere they want to go, even if it's far away. Some people would call that a vacation.
The last one I heard, when they got there, the guy didn't show up.
Yes, I am stoned.
So, in other words, he's saying, look, it's too much laughter and joy in a wrong way. You're thinking it's all just fun and games. We're serving God. The devil is our adversary. We need to be fighting him and going to everlasting life. You need to be more concentrated in your thoughts.
I've been playing a little bit of that Yakuza game.
And Jehovah and what he's doing.
So I'm going to treat Satan.
And was just running with the world. So these were not grave sins.
But sins nonetheless.
These were things they needed to make adjustments in.
So what does it matter? What does it matter if it's not a grave sin? I need, like, the Kenneth Flodine chart of, like, what's the ratio of garlic bread to concerts? Like, what is that level of sin? That's a real inside reference. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it makes sense, surprisingly.
Humble yourselves in the eyes of Jehovah, and he will exalt you.
Man, he mentioned concerts for a second. That's like the closest satanic panic thing we get.
Relationship with God. And that the devil is trying to...
By the way, his name is Jehovah. I don't know if he's seen the channel before.
Make changes and see how you can progress in your relationship with God. Well, there are the 7 exhortations. And that's what's going to help us to stay close to Jehovah God.
7 exhortations. That's what he was saying. He was like reading some scripture that was like 7 exhortations. This is unfortunate. The over-enthusiastic laugh at JW Talk should be studied. Yes. So... Lloyd Evans had a phrase for this, which I don't think is catchy enough, but he's on the right track, which is like ego laughter. It's something like that, but it's like compulsory laugh. It's like when your boss is making a joke and you have to be like, haha, like, because it's your boss. You have to save face. But it also is like, I don't know. There's something to being a Jehovah's Witness and it is so serious. It's so overly serious. And you also have to be overly polite, and it is polite to laugh at people's jokes. And also, you're kind of desperate for any form of levity. I think that's why people kind of, like, the people who like Let, I think they like him because they feel that he's jovial, which is different from someone like Kenneth Cook, for example. But yeah, I know. Like, because laughter is like an instinct. And that was so interesting at that rally recently, right? Like that controversy of Kill Tony. You know, he didn't kill. And it was like, it clearly caught him off guard because he was just expecting everyone to laugh given the audience. And they just didn't, like, even at that venue. So it's kind of interesting laughter. But you're right. It would be shocking. You would never expect, like, at a Jehovah's Witness convention, if a governing body member told a joke, you would never imagine that there wouldn't just be laughter, right? I don't remember that ever happening. I've never seen a governing body member bomb on stage. Holy Spirit? Perhaps. Perhaps something more. Well, a very annoying thing is happening, which is that apparently I can't download my own PDF from the thing. Oh, I just gotta open like a private tab or something. I'll put this stuff in the description later. But I think we gotta close out with a little XJW horror story. I'll read the first chapter, which is not long. It is definitely a prologue of sorts. Let's see. Okay. Can you... Oh, this is confusing now. It's a little confusing now because I've got like a private tab open. Why does anybody do any of these things? I don't get it. Like, oh, are you gonna do the mustache November? I don't think Movember works as a device, by the way. It should be like Mustache March or something. But I'm always like, no, why the fuck would I do that? That sounds like, no shade. Test yourselves. Like that classic Seinfeld episode. We're really setting the wrong tone. Okay. It would be, boy, is there any creepy music I could read? I don't know. You know, it's kind of, I don't know if it's coming through on mic, but there's literally like a creepy wind blowing in the background. It's kind of cool. Fucking hell, I cannot find this private tab. What happens to it after now? How do I find it again? This is me and computers, people. I'm just not that good at it. Oh, I'm so stupid. I can literally just open the PDF in the fucking StreamYard. Like, I know that you're seeing the thing on the screen. I can't find my tab to scroll through it. But I think it actually will be better if I just upload the file, right? Has a slide. That sounds great. No, let's not do that. Let's just open it in preview. All right, so the creepiest KM, like the Kingdom Ministry, like the little pamphlet. Let's see. I want to get big enough. All right, so when you see typos, because I'm assuming you're going to, pretend you don't. Pretend you don't see them. Get the old preview up here. There we go. Oh, Kingdom Melody. The Scariest Kingdom Melody. Play a Kingdom Melody? I can't fucking do it. You know, like, that's something that I really, I do struggle with. I really don't like hearing those songs. Celibacy is based? I guess so. People should do what they want. You know what I think is way more fun is jerking off, to be perfectly honest with you. Hey, I have a really fun idea. Let's not have orgasms. Like, I don't know. That doesn't sound like such a great idea. Is that striking the right tone for this? I don't know. There's a psychosexual nature to this somewhat. Don't let that dissuade you from reading. All right. Not a cult. Starts with this quote. The purpose of the demons through spiritualism is not merely to destroy your faith in God's word, the Bible, but, more than that, to gain possession of your mind and body, to control you completely, thus leading you to insanity. The Watchtower, February 15th, 1956. All right, Chapter 1, Allegheny, Pennsylvania, 1896. At some point on the long road through the backwoods of Allegheny, Abram's father started talking about demons. Later, in the tranquil agony of Abram's death, he would try to recall what had prompted his father's line of thought, would try to recall why, on that precise day, at that precise moment, Father had asked him that precise demonic question. All Abram had was hindsight, what little hindsight a boy can have when he's drowning and bleeding out. But as a prophet, his father had foresight. So really, Father must have known from the start that he was leading a lamb to the slaughter. The pastor, of course, was not Abram's real father, and his mother often reminded him so. Mother did not understand the movement, or the pastor's calculations, or why a 10-year-old boy would rather go to church and preach the gospel than play with his friends after school. Mother said she was a Christian, but she could only think in fleshly ways, couldn't understand that pastor had become the spiritual father of hundreds in the growing movement. Being the father of hundreds came along with logistical challenges, however, and it was an increasingly rare privilege to spend a day preaching with the man himself. Another thing that Mother simply didn't understand. You ain't related by blood, Mother would say. Blood is blood. She said silly things like that a lot. Blood is blood. True Christians, in Abram's estimation, ought to know blood could be a whole lot more. Mother was sadly blinded by Satan's influence over this dying age. That's why Christ called the devil the god of this world, the pastor had explained to true Christians who heeded his warnings. Mother could not understand that everyone in the movement was bound by something stronger than blood, the spirit. And sure enough, 3 days after this little carriage ride, when Mother found Abram's body at the edge of the lake, his eyes gouged out and belly torn open, it did appear that the spirit had won out over the flesh. Before the things got inside Abram, before they squeezed their way into every inch of his insides until he felt ready to burst, it was just another day in the harvest of the Lord, to the extent, given the nearness of the world's end, any day could be said to be just another. After all, the time left was reduced, and the days were growing scant. There would be meat in due season, and so certain was the pastor of this fact that the words "meat in due season" were emblazoned across a banner on the side of the stagecoach. As the horses pulled the carriage down the narrow dirt path, the trees thinned along the broad fields of dead and yellow grass. Abram's spiritual father, the pastor, asked the boy, "You ever wonder how God kills demons?" Abram looked up from the book on his lap. "Kill? You read God's word, don't you, Abram?" the pastor said. He flicked the reins, and the horses trotted a little faster. "You read the gospel, like a good boy?" "Yes, sir," Abram said. "Every day, like you tell us. I want to make sure I read every night for my prayers. I like your books better, though. Scriptures can be hard to understand. You explain it real good." Abram's face, sunbeaten and dusty from the kickback of the clomping hooves, had been buried for the past 2 hours in the book he'd been reading, the latest the pastor had written. "They're not my books, Abram," the pastor said. "Not as such. Your name's on the cover. They're God's books," Father said. "They're God's words, his message. I'm only the vessel. There are 2 kinds of vessel in this world, Abram. Vessels for the Holy Spirit of the Lord Jesus Christ, and vessels for Satan and his hordes of demons." The pastor had a curious and roundabout way of speaking, often starting a conversation with a question that he would not go on to answer until a long time later, when you might assume he'd forgotten he'd ever asked the question in the first place. Abram tried to keep up. "Am I a vessel?" he asked. The pastor smiled. "Why, you're baptized, are you not?" "Yes, sir." "Then a vessel you are, Abram. You've presented your body as a living sacrifice before Jehovah God. But there are others, our enemies, God's enemies, who baptize themselves in fire. Such ones open up their bodies as a sacrifice to Satan the devil, and Jehovah will kill those people, Abram. Any day now." "Your book says 1914. That's a few years away at the latest," the pastor said. 1914 at the latest. I tell you privately, Abram, between you and me, the flock constantly misunderstands this matter. I myself can hardly be blamed for the confusion, as I have only transcribed what God has told me. 1914 is the end of all things, when God's kingdom will be firmly established in heaven and on earth. But the day of wrath, Abram, the inciting incident, that could come any day. Why, it could come any hour, by the time we pass through these woods. It felt very special to Abram having this frank conversation with the Lord's prophet himself about something not everyone in the movement understood. In all truth, Abram didn't understand it all either. "So how is God going to kill the demons?" Abram asked. The horses veered back and stopped suddenly. They'd reached the last property in the county line, an old rickety farmhouse that sat way back from the roadside, guarded by looming sycamores. The pastor smiled and reached behind him, grabbed his ministry bag, a briefcase with the Bible and many volumes of the pastor's own books. "Come along," said Pastor Russell. "Let's find out." Brief pause for a sip of water. It was a long walk through tall grass to get to the house. If there had ever been a path from the road to the front door of this ramshackle place, nature had hidden it away long ago. "The gentleman living here," the pastor said, "responded with great excitement to my advertisement in the paper. I confess his compliments may have been merely buttering me up for the final part of his letter, in which he posed a rather irresistible challenge. Does this man have a name?" "Everyone has a name, Abram, though the envelope was smudged and his signature was chicken scratch. Well, our allegedly named man said he was certain he'd found a biblical question I could not answer, one that had not been addressed in my sermons or writings." "What's the challenge?" Abram asked. He had reached the door, and Pastor Russell brushed a few brambles off his pant leg and adjusted his coat. "Why, the very question I posed to you earlier," the pastor said. "How does God kill demons?" The pastor rapped on the door 4 times, landing the final like the exclamation point the good news demanded. For 2 minutes, the two stood there waiting, but no one answered. As was customary, the pastor knocked again. Still nobody came, and the old man's expression fell. He stroked his long white beard, unsure of what to do next. "Don't look like anybody's home," Abram said. "Don't look like anybody's been home for a long while." Though he did not want to say it, Abram was starting to think this whole situation sounded like a prank. Abram knew well that the world was full of blasphemous folk who saw only humor in the things of God. Just last week, 2 boys at school had pushed... One of those typos. Just last week, 2 boys at school had pushed him in the creek behind the schoolhouse and called him Bible Boy, asking if Abram would ever get with a girl before he got raptured to heaven. Okay, mixed reviews in the storytelling. I'm either going too fast or it's great. Reaching in his pocket, the pastor pulled out and unfolded a sheet of stationery. His dark eyes studied the page, then the faded brass numbers on the doorpost above. 2016, read the pastor. The fellow even drew a map, suggested a window of time for our arrival, and here we are. Attempting to maintain his zeal, the pastor forced a smile and stepped off the porch. I left my pen in the carriage. Abram and Pastor Russell both looked at the door, unsure if they had really heard the sound, but they had. It had come from the other side. When the final disembodied knock echoed like an exclamation point, it struck Abram's ear as almost like a clumping, like hooves of stampeding horses, echoing clatters contained in each thump. Confused, his head jerked to the dirt road far behind them. No mares or carriages were skipping along, no passers-by or policemen. Nobody. There it was again, mimicking his father's earlier rapping. The pastor adopted a stern look, leaned in, and with a sly smile, nodded back. Slowly the door opened with a grumbling whine, like a cornered cat. There a little girl stood at the threshold, 6 years of age, Abram figured. She was short and round-faced like the schoolgirls a couple grades under him. Round was the only thing he could say about her face, for the more he tried to study it, the more his eyes blurred over. It's how his mother said the world looked without her glasses, except this wasn't how the world looked to Abram. Just this girl's face. "Good evening, young lady," said the pastor, tipping his hat. "That, I do believe, is the first time in my ministry I've had a door knock back at me." He added a polite chuckle. The girl did not laugh. Abram couldn't tell if she smiled or not. "That wasn't me, silly," she replied. "That's just old Splithoof." That was a funny name for a dog, the pastor told her, but she said it wasn't a dog. Wasn't a cat either, but she wouldn't clarify what it was. Only what it wasn't. "Well," the pastor eventually said, "my name is Russell, Charles Russell. This here's my son, Abram. Might your father be home?" "He's always home," said the girl. More silence followed. Abram wondered what school the girl went to. He had rather unfortunately a penchant for happening upon kids from school when doing the Lord's work, and thus prayed fervently to avoid knocking on their doors. God never saw fit to answer these prayers, which the pastor had taught him meant it was not in harmony with God's divine plan of the ages. It was God's divine plan, evidently, for Abram to be bullied and beaten, and for certain young girls to be cursed with a blurry face. Or perhaps Abram's eyes were just developing some kind of inexplicable condition. Neither option was desirable. Abram was still young, would prefer to see so long as he was stuck in this fleshly vessel. "We're responding to your father's inquiry," Russell said. "He's expecting us." "I know," said the girl. "We've been praying for Satan to send us another one." Abram felt his chest grow hot. A terrible feeling spread within him, telling him he should run. "And look how good the Lord is," said the girl. "He sent us too." Pastor Russell straightened his back and took a step toward the girl. He glowered at her from on high. "Did you just say you prayed to the devil, girl?" The blur around the girl's face faded for a too brief moment, like mist briefly parting, just enough for Abram to see the unpleasant smile that crept in and took over the little girl's face. There was something unnatural about it, as if it was not her mind or her muscles in control of her skin, but rather fishhooks tugging at the edges of her mouth. "Just like you did, Charlie," she said, "way back when. And you have no idea what the good Lord has gone through to bring you home." Ends with a quote. It began with strange noises in a haunted house, and first answered a little girl who addressed the unseen author of the noises as Old Splithoof. Pastor Charles Diaz Russell, What Say the Scriptures About Spiritualism, 1897. So that's the first chapter of the book. What do we think? Damn, we're almost at 3 hours. I don't know. Do people want to hear the next part? So that's kind of our cold open, the Bible student era, taking some liberties with history. But yeah, I found this early on. I was trying to do research. I found this crazy Russell publication about spiritism. I don't know why he calls it spiritualism. I guess that's what they called it back then. And he tells this story about a little girl coming to the door of a haunted house and addressing the author of the noise as Old Splithoof. And I looked everywhere. I can only find Charles Taze Russell talking about Old Splithoof. I could find historical evidence of this story he's talking about, because obviously, like, if you read the context, you can figure out what event he's referring to, but nobody talks about Old Splithoof. It's so weird. It's so specific to Russell, so I had to do something with it. Okay, so Warren said it sounded familiar. Yeah, so I read an early version of this. I read a little short. I don't know if I read it on stream or if I think I did. I think I tried to read it on stream. It was an earlier version of this. The big difference was Russell wasn't the guy. He wasn't the father figure. It was just literally Abram's dad. And I could not crack this opening, and it was always supposed to be about Russell in some way. You know, his presence was going to loom over the whole thing. So I was like, it should just be him. All right. I'm going to read the next little bit here so you see where we're going. Because that's just the cold open. This is not a story that takes place in the Bible student movement. This takes place in the year 2016. For reasons... You got to remember that Russell liked numerology. Chapter 2, Brooklyn, New York, 2016. Now, I just might say that my mother, she was ready to sell up everything in the home because she thought the end was coming in 1914. Okay, let me say this first. All of these quotes, all of the ones that I cite, directly, like in quotes, those are real quotes. But this is also really a real quote. All right, well, we've still got some people watching, so I'm going to read this next chapter in the modern age so you can get a sense of where things are going. Shit, I know I got a thing I fucked up here I think I have to change. Thanks for the kind words. Ah! I love how you read it. When I read it, I was hearing your normal, happy live stream voice. Lovely horror reading cadence modulation. Well, thank you. I learned about vocal modulation from this great religion I highly recommend called Jehovah's Witnesses. I wrote a whole book about why they're great. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That's what this story is about. God damn it. What happened to I keep losing my tabs. All right. Now, I just might say that my mother, she was ready to sell up everything in the home because she thought the end was coming in 1914. An old man was saying this on a flat-screen display. Dressed in a suit and tie, he sat in front of bookshelves as scan lines from the VHS transfer hissed across the screen. And her feelings were that of a lot of brothers back then. As the camera cut to sepia-tone footage of a group of Bible students, the genre of voice was replaced, a modern newscaster voice. Despite such expectations, the distressing world conditions that erupted in 1914 did not mean that the Bible student's job was done. Fade in an archival black and white photo of Charles Taze Russell wearing a flat-brimmed hat. Russell felt sure that a great work remained. He wrote, "We should lose no time dreaming that the door is shut. There are people who are seeking the truth, people who are sitting in darkness. Yet Russell would not personally reach those people. On October 31st, 1916, in the course of a preaching tour, The screen went black. A young man with short blonde hair, a polo shirt, and khakis, hoisted it off the wall display, bumping the cardboard cutout of Russell next to it. "End of an era," he said to Ben. Ben smiled and hurried over to help Brother Blonde with the television. "If I had $1 for every time I'd heard that the last couple months," Ben said, hoisting his end of it, "we could have afforded to hire a moving company." Ben and his fellow worker with Christ carried the television, while other brothers and sisters grabbed cardboard displays of sound trucks from the 1940s, framed portraits of the governing body members, and glass enclosures of old tomes by Russell and Rutherford. Ben and Brother Blonde ducked beneath the banner that two brothers on ladders were lowering, the banner that had marked the entrance to the museum for the past 20 years. Jehovah draws his people out of the darkness and into the light. It was a long banner. Then again, Jehovah's Witnesses had a long history. Technically, it was eternal. When the museum had been open to pilgriming witnesses, the Out of Darkness tour at Brooklyn Bethel traced God's will back to the Garden of Eden, then to Enoch, to Noah, to the Israelites, to John the Baptist, to Jesus Christ, to the Apostles, to the guy who invented the Gutenberg press for some reason, to Jehovah's Witnesses. It was like one of those passages from the Bible about who begat whom, brought to life by artifacts, TV screens, and props. Charles Taze Russell begat Joseph Rutherford. The Bible students begat Jehovah's Witnesses. Pennsylvania begat Brooklyn. Brooklyn begat Warwick. In 7 days, the world headquarters of God's one true organization would move from Brooklyn to Warwick, New York. Out of the city and into the fields, the Bethel family agreed this was a sensible move, given the thinning of the harvest. The last of the last days was the new catchphrase around headquarters. Jehovah was getting his people in place, was another. Getting them in the right place, in the right time for the Great Tribulation, then Armageddon, which would beget the 1,000-year reign. The future was infinite and busy. As Ben and Brother Blonde trudged the flat screen through the lobby, construction brothers were removing light fixtures and waiting room chairs. Ben had given a talk last Sunday to the last few chosen to remain at Brooklyn during the transition. He'd compared them to the Israelites moving the Ark of the Covenant. "Where they got you assigned?" Ben asked Brother Blonde. "At the new digs." "I'm going to be, pardon us." The men swerved around two sisters in full dresses carrying a writing desk. "In security, I think. Night shift." "Oof, I did night shifts on Warwick Construction. Excuse me, sister. For 3 months back in spring. I'm still not sleeping right." I like night shift." "Then it's a blessing," Ben said. Brother Blonde smiled. "If it's for Jehovah, it's always a blessing." They'd reached the threshold of the entrance to Brooklyn Bethel. Through the propped-open doors, taxis honked to the Watchtower moving truck pulled halfway onto the curb. A couple witness men sipping coffee from styrofoam cups scooted out of Ben and Blonde's way as they carried the display. Past the uneven skyline, way out in the distance stretched the Queensboro Bridge. When researching his talk, Ben had looked on jw.org and learned that the bridge was built in 1908, the same year Jehovah had moved his people to 29 Columbia Heights. The next year, both opened to the public, 2 major pieces of New York iconography in the same year, like God had connected them with some divine thread. Now that Bethel was moving, maybe the bridge would collapse. The men walked the television up the ramp of the moving truck, and Tetris blocked it between couch cushions and bubble-wrapped paintings. "Ben Duncombe," said Ben Duncombe to his new moving buddy, like Duncombe your hair. Brother Blonde gave the requisite chuckle. "Denny Clark," he said, like Clark. A look of recognition. Denny brightened and snapped his finger. "Wait a minute. Duncombe." Ben dimmed. The whole Duncombe your hair bit had become a reflex passed on from his father, and Ben was really, really trying not to think about his father this morning. "He's my dad," Ben said. Better rip off the Band-Aid. "Speaking of blessings," said Danny, "my dad didn't raise me in the truth, so let me tell you something. You are very blessed to have a father on the—" "What are we moving next, Brother Clark?" said Ben. Danny gave him a funny look. "You are moving your behind to morning worship. Whole reason we're here is to support you, brothers, so you can work during the transition." Ben checked his cell phone for the time, and his stomach sank. "Shoot," he said. The screen was on the last page he left it. The text thread with his bunkmate, Darren. Ben had sent the last message, and could see that Darren had read it. "Call me when you wake up." Read at 4:54 a.m. It was now 6:43 a.m. Ben's stomach sank further. Shoot. He looked up at Denny Clark. "Guess I lost track of time." "Don't make a habit of it," Benny said with a smile. He patted Ben on the back and hopped off the back of the moving truck as the construction brothers hauled in at desk. He looked back before walking out of view. After all, the time left is reduced. Ben knew damn well the time left was reduced. He knew the phrase was from 1 Corinthians 7:29, too. He'd been making Bible verse flashcards when Denny Clark was probably still wiping his snot in the Kingdom Hall seats. The kid didn't understand, yet. Will there be romance? Oh. This is a sweeping tale. This is a sweeping horror story, of course. The full expression of human emotions. Yes. Hey! Thanks, Scott Jones. I really appreciate it. I'm kind of gambling on just playing it totally straight. You know, I think if you're an ex-witness, obviously, you'll know all of this language. You'll know what I'm talking about. But I think that if you are just a horror reader looking for like a weird cult, the novel about a cult, you'll be like, well, it has its own language. It's so weird. What the fuck? You know, the way cult documentaries are. You just kind of slowly learn the language. So Ben, gay romance. Yes. You know the streamer well. The kid didn't understand yet that it wasn't enough to know the world was going to end. It wasn't enough for the will to be strong. None of that is enough if the flesh is weak. Actually, okay, here's what I'm going to do. It wasn't really my intention going into the book, but, sexual repression is such a thing. And queerness is a thing. Ben, we've learned throughout this chapter. I'm going to cut to kind of a fun cliffhanger to leave you guys on, something more spooky. This is chapter 2. We learn that Ben has I don't define him as like what his sexuality is, but he's definitely attracted to like men and women. And it would seem that he just had some kind of encounter with his roommate that he's feeling guilty about throughout this entire thing. Scott, you're a gentleman. I've been thinking about emailing it to you, and I didn't want to impose, but I will take you up on that. And so there's this fellowshipping announcement at morning worship, which they really do. I was visiting Bethel when they did one, so I know. And so Ben, is just feeling the weight of his guilt, right? And so then we cut to later in his morning, after morning worship, right? There's no author. I would say that thank you will be done after I finish reading this chapter. What was I going to say? There's not really a self-insert. There's two protagonists. We're meeting Ben, and then in the next chapter we meet our other protagonist, Cora, and they're both parts of me, I would say. Ben is the organization and repression and likes being the cog in the machine at Bethel. Daddy issues. And Cora is all the rest of my shit. So I don't know who... I feel like I relate to her more, maybe. Okay, so then we cut to later. I read, of course, because it's mandatory. Morning worship is about apostasy spreading like gangrene. And last thing, Ben said, flipping to the last page on his clipboard, the coordinators committee just wanted me to remind us to stay on top of the DB37s. We're seeing more inflow than outflow, and, we're doing real good on the SB83s, but I think in our adjustment to our workflow after the last audit, sorry, I feel like I'm saying the word flow a lot, but, just got to make sure we're working in harmony with Hebrews 6:11, make sure we have that industrious attitude. Okay, that's all. So, Greg, could you conclude with prayer? Greg gave a perfunctory closing prayer, and the half-dozen brothers in the layout wing dispersed to their respective cubicles. By 8:30 a.m., Ben was sitting at his desk in the layout wing of the printing department at branch headquarters. His cubicle was gray like all the others, snug in its corner with the 4x4 grid. When he'd been asked to move upstairs from the printing press floor to his current assignment, he'd been thankful. Being a human assembly line packing cardboard boxes full of watchtowers was a young man's game, and when he had turned 30 last year, it was like a near decade of manual labor hit his spinal column all at once. Days like this, though, he missed the balletic mindlessness of doing the same physical motions over and over. It was like being a literal cog in God's great machinery. His brain could turn off completely, enter stasis. This morning, all he could do was refresh his phone and wonder why Darren had never texted him back. As he was reviewing the cover layout for what would either be January or February 2017's edition of The Awake, the department stayed far ahead of schedule, as any day Satan's world could shut down the preaching work. As his eyes blurred enough to see his own dull reflection overlaying the Excel spreadsheet on the screen, there was a knock on the entryway. It was his overseer. Or not just his overseer. It was his overseer's overseer, Tom Wilder. Brother, you're not in the ministry. You don't have to knock, Ben smiled. But inside, he was bracing for bad news. Morning worship aside, it was never good to see your boss's boss, he figured. I got a story about that, said Brother Wilder, who was the kind of man who had a story about everything. I'll tell you after. After what? You got a few minutes? Sure. Ben felt an anxious flutter in his chest. Everything all right? Brother Wilder just nodded to the doorway past the cubicle grid. It'll just be a few minutes. Wilder led the way down the hall to wherever they were going. Past wooden doors to other rooms just like it, Brother Wilder ushered Ben inside a conference room. 4 white walls, a blank projector screen pulled down on the far end of the room, and in the middle was a square table and swivel chairs where the 2 men would sit. No, 3. Brother Dario was sitting there already, an elder who worked for the writing department, and upon seeing this, Ben thought, shit. 2 elders, a surprise meeting, no details. These usually went precisely one way, with an announcement, one nearly identical to the one Brother Garrett had given this morning, but with 2 critical words swapped in. Benjamin Duncombe is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. The 3 men exchanged unpleasant pleasantries. None of them was eager to get into the specifics. You keeping him in line there in printing, Ben? Oh, I try, brother. Forced chuckles. Leather ruffled and squeaked as the men slouched into their respective swivel chairs, and then the only sound was the low buzz of the fluorescent lights. Dario said nothing. Wilder sat with himself for a moment, opening his mouth, closing it, then opening it again, like he was typing out and deleting a text before hitting send. "Maybe it'd be best if we opened with prayer," Brother Dario eventually said. Ben nodded, so did Wilder, thankful for the other man's suggestion, and the three bowed their heads. Darren ratted. Those were the words he kept repeating in his head. Darren ratted. That's why Ben hadn't seen him this morning. That's why Ben sat before these two men now. When sin came to light, this is how these things went. He knew he wasn't getting a promotion. Knew also he wasn't supposed to think of new assignments as promotions. So the next logical explanation would be discipline. Morning worship this morning had not been a warning from God to straighten up. It had been his opening argument in the case against Ben's salvation. "Jehovah God, our Heavenly Father," Brother Wilder said, in the pious, sleepy manner typical of his prayers, "we come before you now to ask that your Holy Spirit guide this conversation." They had hardly done anything, Ben and Darren, not anything they hadn't already done by themselves at some point. Nobody else knew about it but the two of them, except... "And Jehovah, we ask you to forgive our sins and calm the minds." Jehovah had seen it. Ben's Heavenly Father had seen the whole thing. The mental image of God looking down on the scene felt like punishment enough, and the Bethel halls were rife with damn near supernatural stories of the Holy Spirit revealing hidden sins. "In complete trust," Brother Wilder concluded, "in the direction of the faithful and discreet slave, the governing body. In Jesus' name we pray, amen." "Amen," said Ben. Well, he'd attempted to say it, but could only cough up some guttural noise. Ben's heart was a speed bag, and his mouth was full of cotton. "Sorry for interrupting your morning, Brother Duncombe," Wilder said. "I know it's all a little sudden and strange. Any consolation, it's strange for us, too." Brother Dario just nodded. Ben nodded back. If he kept his mouth shut, he couldn't say the wrong thing. "Well, Brother Duncombe," said Brother Dario, half pointing to the projector, "if you turn your attention to the screen..." A knob on the desk controlled the lights, and Dario dimmed the room. Was nobody going to explain what in the unholy fuck was happening? "Sorry, brothers," said Ben. "I feel like I'm missing some..." "Brother Duncombe," said Tom, "we ask that you just watch the video and hold your questions to the end." The room fell for a slow blink, entirely dark. Before Ben's eyes could adjust to the blackness, the projector kicked on in word, and light beamed out in a flickering cone. The men in the room were shadows now, reduced to silhouettes by the projected image. The image of a man Ben recognized. Sitting at a desk, the desk, in the JW Broadcasting Studio, was governing body member Krieg Schaas. Schaas was of the old guard, a man who had served at Bethel since before the invention of the internet. "We warmly welcome you," he said, soft V's invading his W's, "to this special program. On behalf of the governing body, we thank you, dear brothers, for your hard work and your assignment. How privileged we are as full-time servants to live in this fortified spiritual paradise, Bethel, which means house of God." I don't know what kind of voice I'm doing. Raw nerves aside, so far this special program sounded like every other non-special program produced by the body. Aside, too, from the circumstances, which did not feel special in Ben's estimation, so much as ominous. Brother Schaas's pale, saggy skin was stuffed into a charcoal suit, white hair coiffed into a precarious slope. Framed in the center of the screen, the old man sat, as the body always sat, stiffly and gravely before a spinning globe graphic. Hands folded on the desk. Schaas, as always, was aiming for spiritual, but hit closer to a newsman long past retirement age, like someone had dragged Walter Cronkite's corpse out for one last rodeo. Darren had given Ben the zombie Cronkite line, and Ben wondered, as he watched, if every tiny observation from now on would be a reminder of one stupid mistake with one stupidly attractive man. "Staying busy in service to our grand Creator, in constant fellowship with Jehovah's peoples, ensures we are focused on work that brings our Heavenly Father joy and helps protect us from the crafty acts of Satan the Devil." Ben glanced at the two men, who nodded along in a practiced manner. Schaas was stretched. He stretched and exaggerated each word, and the alchemy of Ben's nerves, familiar phrases, and troubling circumstances slid Ben into a sort of keyed-up hypnosis. "However," said Brother Schaas on the screen, "we might ask ourselves, if we are working harder than ever, is not the adversary working harder as well? How true this is. Revelation 12:12 provides a sobering warning.
Woe for the earth and for the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great anger, knowing that he has a short period of time. Graphics from the art department faded in, replacing zombie Cronkite with illustrators of the Apostle John writing upon a scroll. These inspired words were written in 96 CE. How much more dire this warning is in our day. Apostle John was replaced by soldiers and tanks. Ever since the year 1914, when Jesus began ruling invisibly in heaven, we have seen uncontestable proof that Satan is the ruler of the earth, a roaring lion, seeking to devour any lover of Jehovah in the few remaining months before Armageddon. Months. Ben's pulse quickened. The governing body had never been that specific before, at least not in Ben's lifetime. To that end, Jesus has directed his faithful slave, the governing body, to adjust our understanding of how to combat direct attacks on God's people. What do we mean by that phrase, direct attacks? Usually, Ben knew the answers to these rhetorical questions. Not here. For the first time in a long time, Ben had no idea what a governing body member was about to say next. As Noah in his day dealt with the Nephilim, and our Lord Jesus in his earthly ministry dealt with legions of wicked spirits, the first century apostles dealt directly with demonic possession. Satan was not content to merely mislead persons. No, his agents, the demons, inhabited the bodies of certain persons, tormenting them and using them as puppets to follow his voice and influence others. Ben was still telling himself this couldn't be going where it sounded like it was going. Insight on the Scriptures, Volume 2, describes demon possession as the captive control and influence of a person by an invisible wicked spirit. Ben was leaning in, eyes wide and unblinking, brow furrowed. They're going there. Should we expect Satan to lessen these direct attacks in our day? On the contrary, as we saw from God's own word, Satan knows his time left is reduced. The May 1st, 1968 Watchtower gave this frank warning. Satan the devil has a real problem where time is concerned. He has very little time left. What he would not give to have more time to work out his debased purposes. But he does not, and so is furious. You can be certain that he will use that remaining time to his best advantage in opposing God and his servants on earth. By this point, Ben had nearly leaned his entire ass off his seat, unconcerned with but not unaware of the way the two elders were studying his reaction. It must be acknowledged, Brother Shaw droned, that thus far, Jehovah's organization mirrors the first century congregation in almost every way, except one. Works of the Spirit. Yes, Christ Jesus expelled demons. First century apostles expelled demons. Yet in the 150 years of Jehovah's organization, we have not performed a single exorcism. Until now. You, dear brother, are being called for a special assignment. Are you seeking to break free from some form of occult power? If so, get in touch with Jehovah's Witnesses. They are not exorcists, but they know what the Bible says you must do in order for Jehovah God himself to help you. Awake Magazine, December 8th, 1980. Boom, let's leave it there. It was genuinely a fun challenge to try and write a realistic sounding talk. Like, what would it sound like? If this video existed, how would they word everything? I just realized I got a persons in there. Got a solid persons. Thanks, guys. Sounds like the Satanist guy from Purgatory. I don't know what that is. Yeah, I know. I think in the final edit, I think I'm going to have to cut. I might cut that quote because in the morning worship talk, they also read a Watchtower passage. And like, I know that in real life they do that, but I think for flow, I might not have them read another one in the dialogue, especially because the chapter also ends with the quotes. I don't know, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for sticking around. Enjoyed hamming it up. Thank you, OMG. It feels like a genuine JW talk. Very good. The demons from Let's Vegas. I know. Okay, so you might have noticed that I am using fake governing body names. Like, there's no real names. Just because not worth dealing with that. Like,
I don't really anticipate that Watchtower would like try and take down a self-published book, but you know, if I actually used their real names, they would probably about it. Is it actually a problem to use Charles Hayes Russell? I don't know. I mean, you can't like copyright a dead guy. You can write alternative fiction about historical figures. I think we're safe. But I didn't want readers to be distracted by I don't know, just like imagining a real governing body member. Like, just imagine a German guy. That's fine. They're all kind of the same. So he's just kind of a German old governing body. Kind of sounds like a scary guy. So yeah, I'm really proud of this. I have to say, I really mined all my trauma. I put all my nightmares into it, and I think it's fun from the standpoint of there's some spooky stuff. It's a slow burn. You know, we're not starting out with heads exploding, but there's some allusions to some grotesque imagery in the opening chapter. It's ominous. Here we get into the actual exorcism, and then, yeah, I don't know, just happy with it. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Can we be real? If Charles Taze Russell had just gone by Taze, he would have been unstoppable. He would have beat Mormons at their own stupid game, at their own filthy game. You know, Joseph Smith kind of benefits from the fact that he has such a generic name that you remember it. Just Taze, the founder of Jehovah's Witnesses, Taze. And I am thinking just one name, like Beyonce. He's just Taze. It's kind of, or like is it Dodgeball, where Ben Stiller has his entourage of like, their names are Laser, Blazer, Blaze. Yeah, don't tase me, bro. All right, folks, this is super fun. We had a fun spooky night, and it's now officially past my bedtime, and that's how you know it was a good spooky night stream. I'm probably just going to post a link to this. I don't think I'll have it publicly listed because it's 3 hours of, I don't know, but it won't be invisible or anything. I don't know. Don't wrestle my jimmies. Oh my God. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bang.